Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 2. Now let's start the fanfic. The next day, Naruto arrived to the class on time no less. He immediately received various surprised glares as he walked down the stairs and sat near Hinata. She noticed the smile that was spread on his face. Having a good morning? Hinata asked. Yeah, mom taught me a new jutsu. I made genin, and I learned a clone jutsu that is far superior to the one you all know. Naruto said. I think you just got lucky, loser. There's no way a loser like you could make genin. Sasuke said. Without even wasting a minute. A kunai was suddenly sent flying by Sasuke's cheek. Naruto walked over to a wall, pulled out the kunai, licking the blood that was on it. Sasuke and the whole class looked at him like he was crazy. Tastes like fear and failure. Naruto said. Naruto. Ino and Sakura yelled as they both ran towards him. Naruto simply slid out of the way and watched as the both ran into the wall. You two should really watch where you going. Naruto said. Naruto returned to his seat, and talked to Hinata until Iruka came into the class. Everyone who was still standing returned to his or her seats. Ino and Sakura did their daily battle over who would sit by Sasuke until Shino walked in and took the seat. Alright, class. My final act as teacher is to assign you all to your new genin teams. Each of these 3 teams will consist of 3 of you, and be led by Jonin. During this time, you are to obey their commands, as they are now your leader. In other words, please do your best. Now that you are genin, you officially represent Konoha. Iruka said. The 9 genin nodded and Iruka looked at the team sheets he was given. Team 7, Kiba Inuzuka, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Iruka called. Sakura cheered, as she would be paired with her precious Sasuke. Sasuke remained silent and Kiba was talking to Akamaru. The small puppy barked happily as Kiba petted him on the head. Team 8. Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame and Naruto Mitarashi. Iruka called. Naruto and Hinata looked very happy and Shino impassive. Team 10. Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi. Iruka called. Choji is munching on some chips, Shikamaru mumbling something about troublesome girl, while Ino cried about not being with Sasuke. You are free to do as you like until you are to meet your new Jonin teachers after lunch. Goodbye and good luck. Iruka said as he leaves the room. I would like to get to know my teammates some before we meet our new sensei. Would this be acceptable, guys? Naruto asked. Sure, Naruto. Hinata said. Shino just nodded. All 3 get up and head out to one of the practice fields on the academy grounds. They eat and talk a lot, getting to know each other. When they finished lunch, they headed back to the classroom. When they entered, they saw the other students sitting as teams, quietly chatting amongst themselves. While they were waiting, Asuma came in followed by Kurenai. Team 10, come with me. Oh, and Team 7, get comfortable, your sensei won't be here for a while. Asuma said as he left with his team. Team 8, please come with me to the roof. Kurenai said. Naruto, Hinata, and Shino followed their new Jonin instructor to the roof of the academy. She decided that she was going to play by ear to decide what she would do today with the squad. She needed to give them the test to see if they were ready to be a team, and it would be helpful to know more about them as well. Once they reached the roof, she instructed them to have a seat before. Alright, I'm going to come on out and say that you all are the first team I ever led, but get one thing memorized if you learn nothing else, I'm not here to babysit you all. I have better things I could be doing, so I expect you all to behave like grown shinobi, got it? Kurenai asked. Kurenai glared at Naruto for a moment, who wasn't even paying attention. He was busy balancing a kunai on the tip of his nose. Anyways, why don't we get started by introducing ourselves? Tell me your name, likes, dislikes, hobbies and any goals. Kurenai said. Why don't you start us off? We at least slightly know each other from class, but we don't know squat about you. Naruto said. Kurenai cursed Anko for raising Naruto to have her personality, but had to admit he had a point. Fine then, my name is Kurenai Yuhi. I like using genjutsu, talking with friends, tea and reading. I dislike people who harm others for fun, cold weather, and people who treat friends and teammates with disrespect. My hobby is reading. My goal is to become the best genjutsu mistress in all of Konoha. Kurenai said. Kurenai looked at Shino. Okay, you go first. Kurenai said. I am Shino Aburame, I like quiet. I dislike the needless killing of insects. My hobbies include collecting and categorizing insects. My goal is to be the head of my clan. Shino said. Okay, you're up, kid. Kurenai said to Naruto. My name's Naruto Mitarashi. I like my friends and mom, ramen, snakes, and dango. My dislikes are liars, people who think they're better than everyone else, fangirls, people who mistreat snakes, and the 3 minutes wait for ramen to cool. My hobbies are eating ramen, training with my friends and mom, and learning new jutsus. My goal is to be the new Snake Sanin. Naruto said. Kurenai looked at Naruto as he grinned. He reminded her so much of Anko. She had the same obsession with snakes when they were genin on the same team, but that was a long time ago. Kurenai snapped back into reality. Okay, Hinata, you're up. Kurenai said. My name is Hinata Hyuga. I like my friends, flowers, and tea training with my friends. I hate people who judge someone before they get to know them, and my hobby is pressing flowers. My goal is to get acknowledged by my cousin and someone else. Hinata said. Kurenai thought for a moment. Her team consisted of what seemed like a miniature Anko, a girl who was incredibly shy when put on the spot, and a boy with little to no emotion. It was quite an unusual team. She nodded for the team to rise and she smiled. Now that we've finished introducing ourselves, it's time for a test to see if you're ready to become genin. Kurenai said to them. I thought we already took the graduation exam. Naruto said. This is more of a survival test of sorts. Meet me at training ground 11, tomorrow morning. Kurenai said before he disappeared in a cloud of smoke, leaving the 3 genin standing on the roof. They went home, thinking about the test. The moon's light leaked through the blinds of Naruto's window. His sleep was restless, tossing and turning. His dream had turned into a nightmare of Orochimaru pressing his teeth into the tender flesh of Naruto's neck. Shooting up, he cradled the throbbing mark. He got out of his bed and went to his mother's room. When he in Anko's room, he walked to Anko's bed where Anko is. He shook Anko, who's slowly waking up. Anko looked at Naruto in tiredness. Squirt. What wrong? Anko asked. I have a bad dream about, Naruto said before he rubbed his back neck where the cursed seal is. Anko knows what he talking about and hugs him and kissed his forehead. Mommy, who was that man who bite me? Naruto asked. He was a traitor, that's what, and I hate him. He was my sensei until he used me as a tool and gives me the same mark as you have. His name is Orochimaru the Snake Sanin. Anko said. Naruto looked hurt but he quickly covered it up. He then gave Anko a grin. Mommy, if I ever run into Orochimaru, I will kill him for giving us that mark and become a new Sanin. Naruto said. Anko looked at the grinning Naruto. She felt much better when he said that. Well, it's not that easy. Anko said. Well, I train harder until I become the Snake Sanin. Naruto said before yawn. The next day, Naruto, Hinata and Shino arrived at the training ground to see Kurenai already waiting on them. Good, you're all on time. Now that you're here, we can begin the test. Kurenai said as they arrived. What is this test anyway? Naruto asked. Simple. I'm going to go hide, and you all have till noon to find me. Kurenai said. What? We're playing hide and seek. What kind of test is that? Naruto asked. Oh right, my apologies, I forgot to mention, if you don't find me and catch me in noon, you all get to go back to the academy. Time starts, now, Kurenai said with a smirk. Kurenai disappeared in a puff of smoke. Okay, so I'll go find her, and you both do whatever. Naruto said. Naruto took off running into the nearby forest. Sad, he's so excited that he doesn't even realize she went this way, Shino said. Shino turned and headed in the other direction. Wait, N Naruto. S Shino. I guess I'll go this way, Hinata said. Hinata ran through the field looking around. She looked all around, but didn't see her anywhere. Kurenai was a Jonin, so both Shino and Hinata knew that this wasn't going to be easy tracking her down, but Naruto was sure that this would be nothing for him. After wandering the field for the third time, Hinata stopped for a minute and activated her Byakugan. She took a look around the field, and then saw her. Kurenai was using genjutsu to disguise herself as a bush. Hinata smiled and leapt into the trees. She would sneak up on the woman, and catch her from above. Hinata made her way stealthfully through the leaves, pausing on the branch above Kurenai. She smiled and then jumped down, aiming straight for her. Sorry, Hinata. It's going to take more than that, Kurenai said with a smile. Kurenai disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving Hinata to catch nothing but air. Hinata reactivated her Byakugan, and scanned the field again. Kurenai was nowhere to be found. Hinata quickly ran forward, and began to track her down. She moved some into the forest and looked around. However, Kurenai had grown bored of Hinata, and decided to see what Shino could do. The bug user was standing at the center of the field. A calm, relaxed face was on him, or as much as one could be seen, which wasn't much. Shino looked over his shoulder, and bugs began to fly out of his jacket. He looked at them all and nodded, sending them all flying in various directions. One group of bugs flew by a tree and spotted something. The group remained behind, while one flew back to Shino. I see, Shino said. He slowly walked over to the tree, and sent a mass amount of bugs from his jacket to the trees. The bugs flew up and soon, Kurenai came falling down from the trees. Shino walked forward, just in time for the woman to explode, sending Shino skidding away from the tree. The bugs followed behind him, and returned to his jacket. He stood back up and looked at the area of the explosion. Genjutsu, she disguised a kunai with an exploding tag as herself. Working alone will not make this easy, Shino muttered. Naruto was going nuts. He had been at this for nearly an hour and still hadn't seen heads or tails of Kurenai. He was making his third lap through the forest near the training grounds, when he got an idea. Man, I can't believe I didn't think of this, Naruto yelled. Naruto made several hand signs. Shadow clone jutsu, Naruto said. 10 shadow clones appeared around him. Alright, here's what we'll do. Everyone split up and find her, Naruto said to the clones. All the shadow clones nodded and turned to look for the woman, only to drop their jaws when they saw her standing right in front of them. The real Naruto jumped forward and smiled. We got you now, Kurenai-sensei. Let's get her, Naruto yelled. The clones jumped forward and began to catch her. 2 jumped at her, but Kurenai simply ducked underneath them, causing them both to crash into each other and vanish. Another 3 ran forward, but Kurenai grabbed one of them and slammed him back into the other 2. Naruto nodded to the remaining 4 and all of them leapt to her. Kurenai sighed as she leapt into the air and tossed her kunai at all 3 at rapid speed, causing them all to vanish minus the real one who got the kunai in his butt. Naruto leapt out of the forest and landed right in front of Shino and Hinata. Damn it! I almost had her. Naruto said sitting up. This I isn't working. We only have 20 minutes left to see catch her. Hinata said helping him up. Give me 5 more minutes and I'll get her. Naruto said as he pulled out a kunai with one of Anko's sadistic grins on his face, only for Shino to stop him. It won't work. The object here isn't just to catch her. If it was, we would have done so already. Shino said. So it's teamwork then? Hinata asked. Of course. Why else would we be divided into groups of 3? Naruto asked. We need to combine our strengths to catch her. Naruto, tell me, how many shadow clones can you make at once? Shino asked. Right now I can make about 10. Naruto said. Can they perform the striking shadow snake? Shino asked. Of course. They have all the abilities I do. Naruto said. Hinata, you can keep track of her with the Byakugan, correct? Shino asked. Why yes. Hinata said. Good. Then here's what we'll do, Shino whispered. Kurenai was sitting on a rock in the forest, wondering where the others were. They only had about 5 minutes left, and she was getting rather bored. She really had hoped that the 3 of them would pass, but perhaps they just weren't ready. Suddenly 2 snakes slithered by. Kurenai smiled, however that smiles quickly faded. 2 groups of 5 Naruto jumped out of the bushes on the left and right. Kurenai was preparing to get some space to deal with them, only to see Shino and a wall of bugs blocking her path. She then turned around, only to see Hinata standing in her path, with more of Shino's bugs with her. Close, kids, you forgot about teleporting though. Kurenai said. And you forgot about my snakes. Naruto yelled. Kurenai looked down to see snakes wrapped around her hand, making it impossible for her to make her hand signs needed to escape. Kurenai looked down and sighed, but then a smile slowly crept across her face. Alright, then, looks like you all successfully caught me. You all pass. Kurenai said. The bugs returned to Shino, and the clones and snakes vanished. Kurenai and the genin all returned to the training area to listen to what she had to say. Congratulations on passing. Now, can anyone tell me what the point of this lesson was? Kurenai asked. To get us to work together as a team. Hinata said. Right. The only bad part was that you failed to realize this until near the end. Hinata, you were too shy to ask for Shino to help, and let Naruto do whatever he pleased. Naruto, you were so busy showing off, that you disregarded Shino and Hinata when they needed you. Shino, you need to be more open. If you find something odd or having trouble, don't keep it to yourself. Kurenai said. All 3 of the genin nodded and Kurenai looked at her watch. Alright, we'll be getting our first mission tomorrow, so make sure you all meet back here at 9 a.m. Kurenai said. They all nodded and Kurenai left to fill her report on the success of Team 8 to the 3rd Hokage. Shino also excused himself, saying that it was time for him to head home. Naruto and Hinata decided to meet up with Lee and Tenten in the usual spot, and headed for the ramen stand. Hey guys, what's up? Naruto asked as he and Hinata sat down. Naruto ordered miso ramen, while Hinata was there just to socialize. About time you two showed up. Where have you been? Tenten asked. We had our first meeting with our Jonin leader T today. Kurenai's sensei made us takes some test T to see if we were ready T to be on a T team. Hinata said. You pass with flying colors on doubt. I can see the fire of young burning in you both. Lee yelled. Yeah, Naruto said. He held his left ear in which Lee just screamed. He reached onto a plate and pulled off his 6th stick of dango. She said we got to meet her at the training grounds tomorrow at 9 a.m. for our first mission. Naruto said. Naruto looked at his watch and realized he was late. Damn, I got to go, or else mom will make do the target practice test again. Naruto said. Anko sure does make you train a lot. Tenten said. I guess that's normal though when your mom is a jonin though. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Naruto said. They watched as Naruto sped away from the restaurant. He made his way to the Forest of Death, back to the tower he and Anko called home. He opened the door just in time to see a kunai whiz past his face. Naruto sighed as he pulled it off the doorframe and walked towards the balcony. Sure enough, there was Anko leaning against the railing with a huge grin. Can't you just say hi like normal parents? Naruto asked as he threw the kunai back at her. That won't be fun, would it? Besides, you're late. Anko said. Yeah, sorry about that, Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. So, did you pass Kurenai's test? Anko asked. Yeah, though it was weird, I mean our test was like a giant game of hide and seek. Naruto said. Really? That's the same test that our sensei used to give us when we were on a genin team. It took us all 3 hours to find him. Anko said. You mean Orochimaru? Naruto asked in angry. Yes, him, but right now you got training to do. Anko said with a smile. Anko suddenly kicked Naruto over the railing, back to the floor below. You know, I can make it down here without you kicking me like that, Naruto mumbled. Meanwhile, Hinata had just arrived home. She quickly ran up to the bathroom in her room, bathed and freshened up, and then headed downstairs for dinner. Her father, Hiyashi, along with her sister Hanabi and cousin Neji were already there when Hinata arrived. There was silence as the meal began. Hinata was probably the quietest there, barely making any noise, almost as if she was not even breathing. So, how was your day, Neji? Hiyashi asked. Same as always. Some light sparring with my teammates, opening little room to improve myself. Neji said. Yes, I could see where a stronger team may benefit you. Tomorrow morning I will see if any of the other genin teams have an open slot. Hinata, what about you? How was your first day as genin? Hiyashi asked. It was fine, father, Hinata quietly said. Who is on your team? Hiyashi asked. Shino a Aburame and N Naruto m Mitarashi, Hinata said, looking down at her plate. Though Naruto didn't pass. Hiyashi said. He passed the exam L later, he was able to make more clones than anyone. During the T test with Kurenai sensei, he made 10, Hinata said. Really? 10 clones. He one great kid, I give him that. Then you see him, tell him I said congratulations. Hiyashi said with a smile. I will. Hinata said. Hey sister, after dinner, can we spar together? Hanabi asked. Sure. Hinata said. Things were a little more reserved and, as to be expected, morbidly quiet at the Aburame house. Shino was asked about his day and team. However, his family was mainly quiet when informed of Naruto Mitarashi being a teammate, or at least to his ears. Upon finishing his dinner and retiring to his room for the night, Shino's parents talked about the repercussions of Naruto being involved with their son could have on him as well as the family. They would ask the Hokage in the morning about keeping close watch on Naruto, to prevent the power inside of him from harming him. Shino didn't need to hear it, however. The mere mention of Naruto's name caused a slight detection of worry on his father's usually emotionless face. The gears in Shino's brain began to turn, making him wonder what it was that made the adults worry at the mention of Naruto. I trust all the tests went well. The third Hokage asked the 3 Jonin as they entered his office. More so than I originally planned. I even hear old Kakashi finally passed a team. Asuma said. Only because they were the first to truly understand the point of the bell test. Kakashi said. Kakashi wasn't really paying attention that much. He appeared to be more interested in his new book. How about your squad, Kurenai? The third Hokage asked. They all did quite well. In fact, their innate skills seemed to correspond well with each other. The combined force of Hinata's Byakugan, Shino's bugs, and Naruto's shadow clones and snakes are, Kurenai said. Snakes. There are only 2 people I know who can use snake-style jutsus, Asuma said. It is to be expected, seeing as how his mother is Anko, who also teaches him at night. Kakashi said. Anyways, I believe you have the first missions for us? Kurenai asked. Of course. These are the basic jobs for newly formed genin teams: home repair, shop aid, babysitting, and things of that sort. All of you pick one and have the teams report to my office once they finish. The third Hokage said. All of them picked out one of the cards. Kakashi got one about running a flower shop for the day. Asuma picked out one about a trio needed to watch a set of triplets. Kurenai picked one out about a missing cat. She remembered how the team had to pass a test that involved finding her, and now their first mission would be finding a cat. She could see Naruto drawing out his kunai to slice anything that crossed him. She sighed at the thought as she went home, to rest up for a full day with her new team. Have you found the target, Whiskers? A female voice asked. Of course. How about you two, Pale Eyes and Bugs? Whiskers asked. Why yes, I mean Whiskers. Pale Eyes said. I see him. Bugs said. On your word, Red Eye. Whiskers said. Alright. Now, Red Eye yelled. Out of the bushes jumped Naruto, followed by Hinata and Shino. The cat immediately screeched and began to run. Naruto's eyes widened. Reacting on instinct of his training with Anko, he pulled a kunai and tossed at the running feline. Hinata gasped and covered her eyes. Shino simply arched an eyebrow. Kurenai heard the cat screech and immediately ran to her team. What she saw upon arriving almost made her faint. There hung the cat by his collar. The collar was hung on a low part of the tree so he wasn't choking, but it was stuck to the tree by a kunai. Not bad, huh? Naruto asked. Shut up. Kurenai yelled. Kurenai hit Naruto on the back of the head and walked over to the cat. Carefully, she pulled the kunai back at Naruto and picked the cat up in her arms. Naruto was starting to resemble Anko so much it scared her. She walked past her team and nodded. That's it for this mission. Let's go back and get another since it's still early. Kurenai said to them. Shino walked behind her, while Hinata made sure Naruto was okay before she scolded him for being so reckless. The team was managing to complete about 2 jobs a day. However, to be honest, most of them were all boring in Naruto's point of view. He didn't see the importance of having ninja do jobs like gardening, dog walking, babysitting, and especially searching for lost cats. They had been genin for a little over 2 weeks now, and this was the 7th time that they had to look for the same cat. Just like always, they returned to the Hokage Tower, with cat in tow. My precious kitty, a rather fat woman yelled while grabbing the sad cat. Actually eyeing the cat, and then the woman again, Naruto began to get an understanding about maybe why the cat kept running away. Without even so much as a word of thanks, the woman walked out of the office leaving Kurenai and the genin with the Hokage. Deep down, every one of them said their apologies to the cat. The team then turned to face the third Hokage, as well as Iruka who was working as an aide to the man for the day. Well, despite the number of times you all appear to complete this mission, well done. Now then, let's talk about your next mission. The third Hokage said. Naruto sighed. He really didn't know why the missions were like this. Even if they were rank D missions, they should hold a little more importance than this. Regardless of his current feelings, Naruto stood at attention as the old man looked through various scrolls. He scratched his beard, and took a long drag off his pipe. Okay, The next mission we have are babysitting, weeding the garden, walking the dog, the third Hokage said. God damn it, Naruto muttered. Is something wrong, Naruto? The third Hokage asked. Kurenai rolled her eyes. She knew what was next. You're goddamn right, there's something wrong. All this time, we've been doing these summer vacation jobs. Come on, you old man. How about a real mission? One where we actually get to fight or something. Mike and I are starting to cry from all these pointless bores. Naruto yelled. Naruto. Kurenai yelled. What? You can't tell me you enjoy these missions. Naruto yelled. That's not the point, Naruto. You have to complete a various number of D-rank missions before you can do the more difficult missions. Take your job and go. Iruka yelled. Our ninja skills are going to go to waste though. Come on, old man. Just one high-rank job, come on. Naruto yelled. Naruto, that's Ino. Iruka began. Ha. No, Iruka, he's got a point. All right, Naruto. You want a tougher mission? I'll give you your wish. Here is a C rank I think your team can handle. The third Hokage said with a smile. Now that's what I'm talking about. This is going to be fun. Naruto yelled. Calm down, Naruto. We don't even know what the mission is, Shino said. Who cares? Anything is better than the crap we've been doing. Naruto yelled. Shino sighed. He had to admit that Naruto was right. These missions that the team had been doing recently were the pits. Hinata didn't say anything, but she was on the same page as the others, although Naruto could have put it a different way. Kurenai, on the other hand, was struggling not to beat the living crap out of Naruto. It was times like this that she thought about what it would have been like if she had taken Kiba instead. Now, everyone calm down and I'll give you the information. The mission is to serve as escorts for a bridge builder. You will take him from this village to the land of waves. The third Hokage said with a chuckle. A bridge builder? You got to be kidding me, not a princess, or a lord, or anything like that. Naruto asked. Judging from the likes of you, this'll be the end of me, a voice said. Naruto and the others turned to see an older man walk into a room. Naruto could smell the liquor on his breath. He had to be drunk. It was the only way he would make such a comment about Naruto was if he was blind. The old man scoffed. Lord Hokage, with all due respect, you got to be kidding me. This is nothing but a group of kids. There's no way they could protect me on the way to my homeland. Especially the blonde kid, he's an idiot. Old man said as he shot a glance at Naruto. As if on cue, Hinata, Shino, and Kurenai grabbed a hold of Naruto. Rule number 1 of an escort mission, Naruto. Killing the client means failing the mission. Kurenai said with a sigh. Seeing as how I'm pressed for time, I accept their aid. My name is Tazuna, and until we reach the land of waves, you guys are under my orders. Tazuna said. Actually, Tazuna, this team is my responsibility. I will make it our duty to protect you, but should something seem odd, I will have them return to the village for their own safety. Kurenai said. Whatever, let's just get a move on. Tazuna said. Get about a week's worth of supplies. Bring only the necessities, and don't overpack. Kurenai said to the team. Naruto and the others nodded and made their way to their homes. Naruto bounced happily along the trees of the forest. He burst through the door and launched himself into the living part of the tower. Anko looked up from a book she was reading. Squirt. What's so excited about? You nearly took off the damn door. Anko yelled. Can't talk. Got to pack. Naruto yelled. Pack. Pack for what? Anko called as Naruto dashed to his room. Anko put the book down and walked down the hall to his room. She opened the door just in time to see clothes flying out of his wardrobe. Several kunai and throwing items lie scattered about the room, as well as a few scrolls. Naruto packed his bag like a madman, as if he was going to be on the run, and only had 5 minutes to escape. Naruto, Anko called out. Naruto didn't respond. Oh, Naruto, Anko called again in a dreamy voice. Still Naruto didn't answer. Finally Anko tossed a kunai that nearly grazed his cheek. Hey! Squirt! Anko yelled. What the hell is it? Naruto asked. You tell me. You broke the damn door down, run through the house screaming like a little schoolgirl, and then start ripping your room apart. What the hell are you doing? Anko asked. Oh right. Sorry about that. I'm going on a mission to the land of waves. I'm going to be gone for about a week, Naruto said. When did you find this out? Leaving the village makes a mission at least a C rank mission. You and the others only became genin 2 weeks ago. Anko said. What can I say? I'm just that damn good. Naruto said with a smile. Anko smiled back. What the hell are you waiting for then? Get the hell out of here, and make sure you kill one for me. Anko yelled. Naruto nodded and hugged her before running out the door to rejoin the others. Hinata, Shino, Kurenai, and Tazuna were all waiting at the gates when Naruto arrived. Tazuna looked annoyed. About time, Runt, let's go. We're running behind as it is. Tazuna said. Kurenai looked as the bridge builder began to walk, and nodded to the genin to come along. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something didn't seem right about this. Why was this man in such a hurry? This was a C-rank mission, so even if there was any danger, it shouldn't be anything that they couldn't handle, even if they were a team of genin. As they walked along the path leading away from the village, Naruto took a deep breath of the air, as he looked around. He had never been outside of Konoha before, so he had to admit that all of this was new to him. He only calmed down for a minute when he noticed something close. A puddle. It hasn't rained in weeks, something isn't right about this. Kurenai-sensei must notice it too, Naruto though. Suddenly out of the puddle, jumped out 2 ninjas. Almost if by reflex, Shino and Hinata pulled Tazuna behind them. The 2 ninjas surround Kurenai, and wrap her in chains. They both look at each other, and nod. With one tug, the chains snag, and Kurenai is ripped to pieces in front of her team's eyes. Man, as cool as that looked, it wasn't good. Naruto muttered as he pulled out a kunai. The 2 ninja turned and faced Naruto and the others now. Naruto looked back at his team. Shino was emotionless as normal, but a simple nod let him know that he was ready to move at a moment's notice. Hinata's eyes were wide with fear. Naruto cursed. It was just he and Shino for this fight. Shino sent out a wave of bugs, which encircled Tazuna and Hinata. He then found himself engaged in a taijutsu fight with one of the ninja. Shino was not expert at hand-to-hand, but he was decent enough, thanks to training he received. His family believed that should bugs fail in a battle, taijutsu should be a backup measure. Your taijutsu is lacking, Shino said. I'm just letting you keep up, the ninja said. The 2 continued to exchange blows. Shino was not able to land many blows, but he didn't seem to mind, as if he had a different plan. The ninja began to wonder what Shino was finding so amusing. Finally he got fed up. What the hell is so funny? The man asked. The fact that you made ninja, but pay so little attention to things around you. Shino said. The ninja looked down to see a swarm of bugs, quickly inching their way up his body. He screamed and panicked, as each one began to crawl on his skin. He passed out, almost immediately. His fear of the bugs snapping and devouring him was enough to take him down. Shino sighed and called his bugs off, moving to rejoin Hinata and Tazuna. Naruto smiled as the bug ninja returned to the others. That was sad. Naruto said to the remaining ninja. Your friend just got lucky. Besides, we took down that woman in one move, the enemy ninja said. You're an idiot, you know that. She's up in that tree. Naruto said. Naruto pointed to a tree behind him, and sure enough, Kurenai came hopping off a branch. So that makes the score 1-0 Naruto said. The ninja wasted no time in charging Naruto. Naruto smiled and pulled out a kunai. Kurenai's eyes widened. She knew that smile. Anko used it every time she fought an enemy ninja. They never survived. Naruto ran forward and leapt over the ninja as he swung at him. With rapid speed, Naruto threw the kunai into his back. He landed behind the stunned ninja. He was surprised that a squirt like Naruto was able to move with such speed. Naruto smiled even more sadistically. Anko's influence on him was beginning to show even more now. The poor ninja never had a chance. Naruto called forth a shadow clone. With only a nod, they both rushed forward, and began to slice away at the ninja. Shino's eyebrows arched. Kurenai gasped and covered her mouth. Tazuna pulled his hat down. Hinata closed her eyes. Naruto smiled as the ninja was ripped into pieces. The shadow clone vanished and Naruto put his kunai away. After securing the remaining, living ninja, Kurenai thought it was time to bring up her concern to the bridge builder. Tazuna, what is the truth about this mission? There should have not been any confrontation. You haven't been telling us the truth about this whole mission, have you? Kurenai asked. Tazuna remained silent. Fine then, I see this mission as being too difficult for my team to finish, and we shall return to the village, Kurenai said. Fine, the truth is, that this is not a basic escort mission. My life is in danger. Do you know who Gato is? Tazuna asked. Gato. You mean Gato of Gato Shipping and Transport? Shino asked. What would a businessman of one of the most successful companies in the world have to do with this? Kurenai asked. The businessman Gato is simply a mask. There's much more to the surface than that. The real Gato is a murdering, ruthless criminal. He hires shinobi and gangs to do his dirty work, and also specializes in drugs and contraband. He takes over company after company, until he gains control of an entire country. He came to the land of waves a little over a year ago on a business venture. However, no sooner had he arrived, that a wave of violence broke out. He managed to take control of our shipping company, which is the largest and most valuable company to the village. We've been under his thumb ever since. Tazuna said. I understand that you all must be suffering. However, I still fail to see where you fall into place in this. Kurenai said. As you all know, I am a bridge builder. Well, there is only one thing that Gato fear, which is the completion of the bridge I've been building for some time now. It connects the land of waves to the main land. Tazuna said. South, so the bridge would become a major aid for the village. Hinata said. Yes. The bridge would be a major aid in encouraging trade and such with other villages. New businesses could come, allowing the economy to repair, and drastically weakening Gato's power. Tazuna said. Does that mean that the two losers me and Bug Boy beat up are part of his hired guys? Naruto asked. Most likely. They were most likely expecting Tazuna to come alone. Though you and Shino managed to fend them off easily, they had to be at least of the Chunin level. If what he says is true, there'll probably be many more of them to come, probably stronger than those two were. Kurenai said. Kurenai turned and looked at her team, and then back at Tazuna. You'll have to forgive me, but the mission has seemed to become a great deal more dangerous. I cannot make a decision that will willingly put my team in danger. I have to take their feelings into consideration. Kurenai said. With that, Kurenai looked back at Naruto and the rest. I want to know what you all think. If you find that the mission may prove to be too difficult, then we'll return back to the village and find a more suitable escort for him. If you think that you are willingly to continue though, and put it all on the line to complete the mission, then we shall continue onward. Kurenai said. I'll do it. Naruto said without any hesitation at all. You could at least think that through first, Naruto. It's one thing to want to fight and show your toughness, but in the process of making this decision, you not only put your own life on the table, but Hinata's, Shino's, Tezuna's, and mine. Kurenai said. It has nothing to do with proving strength. I have a promise to keep. I don't turn my back. If someone had done the same thing 8 years ago, I wouldn't be here right now. She taught me better than that, and I am not going to betray what she taught me. Even if it means going alone, I will finish this mission, and protect Tezuna. Naruto said. Kurenai smiled. She knew exactly what Naruto was talking about. If Anko had turned her back on him that night, the villagers would have killed Naruto. She understood why he was so determined to continue on, regardless of the danger. She turned back and looked at Shino and Hinata. Shino simply nodded and moved toward Naruto. He was on his side. That left Hinata. She sat there for only a moment before nodding. I think, we should keep G going, Hinata shyly said. Fine. However, we should keep a close watch on Tezuna. Kurenai said. The team nodded and began to move forward once more. Naruto lagged behind a little bit, to wait for Hinata to catch up. She looked at him for a moment, before gazing back to the ground. Naruto looked at her curiously. Hey, what's up? Naruto said. I'll let you A and Shino D down. If T they were S stronger, they C could have E ended up H hurting you B both, or W worse, I'm S so worthless, Hinata said. Hey, shut up. You are not anywhere close to being worthless. You froze up, big deal. It's going to take a hell of a lot more to kill me and Buggy off anyways. You're strong, Hinata. Stop berating yourself. Besides, if you get in trouble, I'll come help you. I'd put my life on the line for my friends. Naruto said. Morning came, and soon the group found themselves on a boat heading for the land of waves. Naruto and the others seemed to notice that Tezuna was becoming more and more tense with every passing moment. Naruto, who was balancing a kunai on the tip of his finger, decided to kill some time and break the awkward silence. Hey, old man, what's this place like anyways? Naruto asked. Naruto, you will address him as Tezuna at the least, do you understand? Kurenai asked. Fine, Tezuna, what is the land of waves like? Naruto asked. Well, to be honest, it used to be a land of promise and opportunity. Before Gato came along, it was a prosperous port village. We mainly specialized in shipping and trade, but it was also a relaxing place to relax on a vacation perhaps. Tezuna said. I suppose this all changed when Gato came along. Shino asked. Yeah, he originally showed up with the promise to be able to help our little village become even stronger. His plans that were showed to the mayor of the village and the council were pretty sound. For a time, they were as well. Gato was actually given control of the place since he was doing so well. That's when things went straight to hell. Tezuna said as he took a sip of his sake. I think I see what happened next. The money that was flowing into the village started going somewhere else. Kurenai said. Bingo. It went straight to Gato's pockets. Trade began to decrease, taxes rose, the council and mayor were given the boot, and before long, Gato essentially became a self-proclaimed king. Tezuna said. If he was S so bad, why didn't the village G get rid of him? Hinata asked. The land of waves isn't like one of the other major countries. Instead, it seemingly acts as an independent state of sorts. Because of this, while they do have a military force, it is not strong. Also, if Gato had as much money as Tezuna-san says he does, he was probably able to buy the favor of some of the military, or even hire his own. Shino said. You're pretty smart for a runt. At any rate, that is the truth. Gato has quite an army of rouge ninja, samurai, and the likes. They also manage to blend into the town rather seamlessly, so you guys will have to be pretty alert when we get there to do your job. Tazuna said. We know, Naruto said. It's not like we need you tell us how to do our job. Naruto thought. The boat eventually slowed to a stop and the team disembarked and began to make their way across a forest path towards the village. Tazuna led the way with Kurenai right behind him. Both the three genin followed suit by forming a triangle of sorts around them. As they trudged on, the air around them began to get misty and thick. Kurenai began to move a little slower, causing the others to follow. Strange, it's mid-afternoon. It shouldn't be getting foggy and such like this right now. Kurenai said. You're right, very unusual weather for this time of year around here. Tazuna said. You guys know what to do. Kurenai said. As if by instinct, Hinata activated her Byakugan. Shino sent several of his bugs to scout the area around them, and Naruto summoned a small snake to move ahead some to see what was there. Tazuna let out a low whistle as he saw them do this without a single word being mentioned. Not bad for a bunch of runts, Tazuna said. Tazuna, with all due respect, give my team credit. If the Hokage didn't think they were ready for an escort mission, he wouldn't have sent them. Kurenai said. Kurenai-sensei, we are not alone. Shino said as his bugs returned. Alright then, I'll take point now. Naruto, Shino, Hinata, you three form a triangle defense around Tazuna. Kurenai said as she moved to the lead. The three followed their orders immediately. Once they ensured that he was safe, the team began to move again, cautiously. They were nearing a river when suddenly Hinata came to a stop. She looked around before she suddenly gasped in surprise. Everyone down! Hinata yelled. Naruto pushed Tazuna down to the ground quickly as the rest of the team ducked just in time for a giant cleaver sword to impale itself into a tree. Kurenai looked up at the sword just in time to see a man wearing a village hidden in the mist headband land by the tree and rip the sword out. He wore bandages over his lower face, a blue jumpsuit of sorts, and had no eyebrows on his face at all. The most standout thing about him was the fact that his headband had a slash through the village hidden in the mist symbol. Damn, just missed them, looks like old, pale eyes there can see pretty well in this mist. The man said as he set the sword against his back. What the hell are you doing? And who the hell are you supposed to be? Naruto asked. Shut up, brat, you're annoying. The man said. That's it, I'm going to kick this guy's butt. Naruto yelled. Naruto, stand down. You wouldn't be a match for him at your level, isn't that right, Zabuza Momochi? Kurenai said as she walked forward. So you've heard of me. I'm impressed. Zabuza said. Don't be. Being a wanted criminal is nothing to be proud of. Listen, things may get a little rough from here. I need you three to hang back with Tazuna and protect him. Leave Zabuza to me, Kurenai said. But Kurenai-sensei, Naruto yelled. No buts. You aren't ready for an opponent like this, none of you are. Kurenai said. Look, I really don't like beating up ladies if it's possible to avoid. So just give me the old man over there, and I'll get out of your way. Zabuza said. Sorry, but that's not an option. Kurenai said. Have it your way, just don't expect me to go easy on you. Zabuza said as he charged forward and sliced at Kurenai. The genjutsu specialist nimbly jumped out of the way as he attacked. She formed several hand signs as she landed, and began to blow a line of fire at the swordsman. He quickly countered by making several hand signs. He spiral of water fired out of his hands at the fire, canceling the attack out effectively. Not bad, canceling out my fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu with water style, giant vortex jutsu. Kurenai said. Don't get too full of yourself. I'm just getting started. Zabuza said. Zabuza made several more hand signs. Water clone jutsu. Zabuza said. Zabuza was joined in battle by a clone of himself. A clone? That's his big plan? Naruto asked. Yes. Did you not notice it? He used the water in the nearby river to form the clone. In a way, it's like your shadow clones. It'll be able to attack and use jutsu like he can. Shino said. The two Zabuza grabbed their blades and ran forward towards Kurenai. Each one let forth a mighty swing in the opposite direction, each blade slashing right through the Jonin. Kurenai smiled as her body began to waver and disappear upon being slashed, causing Zabuza's eyes to widen in shock. An illusion? Zabuza asked. Suddenly a kunai flew through the air and pierced the clone, killing it instantly. They don't call me the Genjutsu mistress for nothing. Kurenai said as she appeared behind Zabuza. I guess that's true, but likewise, I'm not called the demon of the mist of no reason either. Zabuza said. The remaining Zabuza that stood before her fell apart into water. Suddenly, right after that, another Zabuza appeared right in the middle of the Genin and Tazuna. As he swung his sword, Kurenai seemingly appeared out of nowhere as well. She quickly managed to push them all out of the way, and quickly forced a kunai through Zabuza's back. She smirked as she saw the water falling out of his body where the kunai struck. Behind you, sensei, Naruto yelled. Another Zabuza rose from behind Kurenai. With a flick of the wrist, he swung his blade down, smiling as it sliced right through her. Hinata sighed in relief though, instead of seeming worried like Naruto did. What is it, Hinata? Shino asked as he noticed the Byakugan activated on her eyes. It was only a shadow clone, Hinata said as her eyes deactivated. A clone? Zabuza asked. Yes. It's over now, though. Kurenai said. Kurenai quickly formed several hand signs and vanished from sight. Zabuza's eyes widened as tree roots began to grow around his feet, before an entire tree was raised from the ground. Branches expanded forward, binding around his arms, preventing him from moving whatsoever. Zabuza struggled to get free, but to no avail. He cursed as he stopped struggling. What the hell is this? Zabuza asked. Genjutsu. Sylvan fetters. Now that you are completely unable to move, killing you off will be a breeze. Kurenai said as she slowly appeared from the tree trunk. It would be, if it were actually me. Zabuza said. Kurenai sensei. Hinata yelled. Hinata quickly reactivated her Byakugan and gasped in horror. Run! Hinata yelled. Her warning came too late. The swordsman's body suddenly reverted to water and fell to the ground. Kurenai's genjutsu immediately dropped as she looked around, only for the swordsman to appear out of a tree and punch her across the face. She fell over the river, barely managing to gather chakra to keep herself on top of the river. She had barely pulled herself up onto her feet when Zabuza attacked by swinging his sword at her feet. Kurenai jumped over the blade and then let herself fall into the water in order to try and put some distance between the two. Got you, Zabuza said with a smirk as Kurenai suddenly swam back to the surface. What is this? The water is heavy. Kurenai struggled against the water as Zabuza began to make several hand signs at a rapid rate. Kurenai, as well as the water around her, rose into the air and surrounded her until she was trapped in a floating ball of water. She tossed a kunai against the walls of her prison, only to be greeted by a chuckle from Zabuza. Sorry, babes, but there's no escape from my water prison jutsu. Now be a good girl and wait there while I finish off the old man and your brats. Zabuza said. A clone of Zabuza rose from the water and began to make his way towards the Genin and Tazuna. Now then, which one of you wants to go first? Zabuza asked. Man, he took down Kurenai sensei like it was nothing, Naruto said as he pulled a kunai out of a pouch on his belt. Naruto? Hinata asked. What are you two waiting for? It's up to us to save the day. Naruto yelled. Naruto ran straight for the clone, kunai in hand and attacked. The clone simply jumped back before launching a kick that landed straight into Naruto's stomach. The genin skidded away from the swordsman clone, his headband being knocked off in the process. Naruto shakily stood up and grabbed his kunai that lay by his side. Zabuza smirked as he stomped his foot onto Naruto's discarded headband. What are you all doing? I told you, you're no match for him. Take Tazuna and run. Kurenai yelled. No way. If I ran away every time things got tough, then I wouldn't be a genin today, Naruto said. Naruto once again charged straight for Zabuza's clone. Kurenai's eyes widened as her friend's son was throwing his life away on some silly whim. The blonde genin launched another attack at the clone, who once again kicked him away. This time, Naruto came straight to a stop in front of his teammates. You idiot. Listen to your sensei and run. Kurenai yelled. Kurenai's sensei is our right, Naruto, were O only genin, W were no M match for H him. Hinata said. Hinata. Look, Shino said. Hinata looked as Naruto stood back up on his feet. In his hands, was his headband. He tied it around his forehead and grinned as he looked back at his teammates. Shino pushed his glasses up on the bridge of his nose. Hinata looked at him as a small smile appeared on her face. Naruto then turned back and looked at Zabuza. It'll take more than that to kill a leaf shinobi. Naruto said to Zabuza. Naruto, I trust you have a plan. Shino asked. Oh, yeah, it's party time. Naruto said. What's wrong with you all? This fight was over the second he caught me. Don't forget your mission about protecting Tazuna. Take him a. Kurenai was cut by Tazuna with a chuckle. Tazuna? Hinata asked looking back at the bridge builder. Let's face it kids. We're all in this mess now because of my lies. I've had a real long life, and it would be wrong for you kids to all die just trying to protect me. So go ahead, give this freak everything you got. Tazuna said. So that's it then, Shino said. Why yeah, Hinata said. Okay guys, I need you to cover me long enough, can you do that? Naruto asked. Yes. Shino and Hinata both said. Good. Hinata, I need you to fight the Zabuza clone. Shino, stay back and guard Tazuna-san just in case. Naruto asked. As if planned from the start, the Hinata ran straight towards Zabuza. She began to attack in her gentle fist style, Zabuza's clone barely managing to stand one small hair ahead of the girl. She would strike with her palm that he would barely manage to duck under. Eventually, he grew tired of the attacks, and managed to kick her back. Hinata fell to the ground, and barely rolled out of the way in time for Zabuza's sword to strike the ground where she was laying. As she began to rise to her feet, the clone was already on top of her with another attack. The sword began to drive right down into her, only to be blocked by a wall of bugs. What the? Zabuza asked. Wall of insects jutsu. I don't need to be close to you to aid in the fight. Shino said from beside Tazuna. Kid, did you just? Tazuna said. Yes. I attacked with bugs that just happened to live inside of me. It's fine if it makes you sick, but please hold off on throwing up until we're safe. Shino said. Thanks, Shino. A dual set of familiar-sounding voices shouted. Zabuza looked in the tree Hinata sat in front of just in time to see an army of Naruto jump down and grab a hold of him by his arms and legs. Another Naruto walked forward with a smile on his face. Hinata's Byakugan deactivated as she looked at him. You did good, Hinata. I'll handle the rest. Get out of here, Naruto said. But, Hinata said. Trust me, Naruto said. Alright, Hinata said. Hinata ran off to join Shino by Tazuna. Now then, time to finish things off. Naruto said as he looked at the clone. Naruto grabbed a hold of one of Zabuza's hands, and then reached into his pocket and pulled out a kunai with his free hand. Then, in an act surprising everyone, he stabbed his own hand. He then formed a single hand sign with both his and Zabuza's hand while smiling evilly. Ninja art. Twin snake sacrifice jutsu. Naruto yelled. No, he wouldn't, he can't. Kurenai thought as she heard the technique's name escape Naruto's lips. From out of the sleeves of Naruto's trench coat slithered two snakes, each one biting both Zabuza and Naruto wrists. The shadow clones that were holding Zabuza's clone vanished, along with Zabuza's clone itself. Naruto fell down to the ground still smiling, and panting heavily. Idiot, sacrificing his own life to kill one clone, the real Zabuza said. You think? A familiar voice asked. Zabuza looked up just in time to see Naruto jump down from a tree and punch him square in the face. His hand fell out of the water prison that held Kurenai, freeing her in the process. Zabuza swam back to the surface after being knocked into the water. The swordsman was needless to say mad. Naruto smiled at him as he helped his sensei out of the water, onto a rock that was in the water. How? The swordsman asked. Shadow clones. Correct, Hinata. Shino asked. Why yes. I recognized that they were all Shadow C clones when I had my Byakugan A activated. That's WYIG gave up on staying behind so easy. Hinata said. For a Jonin, you sure are an idiot. Do you really think I would submit to killing myself that easily? The technique I used is a last resort one, so I just had a shadow clone do all the last resorting for me. While you and your clone were busy, it gave me the time I needed to finish it off while the real me was able to sneak over and free Kurenai-sensei. Naruto said to Zabuza. You brats think you're hot stuff? Zabuza asked. Zabuza jumped out of the water, placing chakra onto his feet to stand on it and began making several hand signs. Naruto, get back, Kurenai yelled. The blonde genin followed his sensei's orders as she began to follow through several hand signs as well. Water style. Water dragon jutsu. Zabuza yelled. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Kurenai yelled at the same time. From the water rose a dragon made of water that charged right for Kurenai. At the same time, a blast of fire escaped from Kurenai's mouth. The fire and water clashed, which resulted in both canceling each other out. Zabuza's eyes widened as through the mist flew several shuriken, each one smashing right into Zabuza. The demon of the mist flew back and landed against the tree breathing heavily. Watch out! Hinata yelled with her Byakugan activated once again. Everyone looked up in the trees that Hinata did just in time to see a masked boy unleash a handful of Senbon needles that pierced Zabuza in the neck. The swordsman's body fell limp and hit the ground with a solid-sounding thud. Dead, Kurenai said to no one directly as she walked forward and put her fingertips against his neck. Kurenai looked up at the masked boy in the tree as he jumped down and walked towards Zabuza. Thank you for your assistance. We've been after him for quite a while. The boy said. That mask, you're a shinobi hunter from village hidden in the mist, correct? Kurenai asked. Yes. The boy said. Shinobi hunter. What's that? Naruto asked. A ninja who specializes in hunting down rouge ninja and outlaws. Shino said. Strange. Judging from his height and voice, he's not any older than Naruto or the others. He's already a full-fledged shinobi hunter though. Kurenai thought. Wait a minute. Who are you? Naruto asked. Calm down, Naruto. He's not an enemy. Shino said. I didn't say he was. But look at this. He killed Zabuza with one flick of a wrist, while we were sweating over it and struggling to stay ahead. To make it worse, he's only about our age. Naruto yelled. Calm down, Naruto. I can understand how this would make you mad, but I have to admit that this won't be the first time you see a person who might be younger than you, with skills that are on a Jonin level. Kurenai said as she walked over to the blonde. At any rate, I'm afraid I must be on my way. I must dispose of the body, so if you'll excuse me, the boy said as he put Zabuza's body over his shoulder and disappeared in a cloud of smoke, leaving Squad 8 and Tazuna alone. Well, that must have been humiliating. Regardless of who finished who off, I owe you all my life, so I'd be honored if you stayed at my house to lick your wounds. Tazuna said as he adjusted the brim of his hat. Thank you, Tazuna. That'd be nice. Kurenai said. Kurenai began to walk past her genin as the bridge builder followed. Well then, shall we be on our way? Kurenai asked. The team immediately began to follow, Shino being his usual quiet self while Naruto was muttering under his breath about the shinobi hunter. Hinata lingered for a moment before she jogged to catch up to the others, deactivating her Byakugan in the process. Before long, the team and Tazuna arrived at the village that he called home. Much to their dismay, the stories he had been telling them were true. A majority of the businesses had gone under, and the ones that were there didn't have much to choose from, if anything at all. One of the things that caught Naruto, Hinata, and Shino's eyes were the people sitting on the sides of the streets. They were holding signs, which said they would work for food, shelter, money, anything basically. Here we are. Home sweet home. You kids will love it here. Tsunami is a great cook, she can make just about anything. Tazuna said as they came to a house on the edge of town. Anything? Naruto asked. Yep. Tazuna said. Even ramen? Naruto asked, getting more excited. The best there ever was. Tazuna said. Now we're talking. What are we waiting for? Let's go. Naruto yelled. Tazuna and Naruto raced ahead to the house. Hinata, Shino, and Kurenai all sighed before following the two. Tazuna smiled as he swung the door to his house open. He took his hat off and placed it on a hat rack, along with kicking his sandals and dropping his backpack off at the door. Naruto and the others followed suit with their sandals. Tsunami. I'm home. Tazuna yelled. Hi, father. Tsunami called. Tsunami walked down the stairs and threw her arms around the old man's neck. Did you have a nice trip back from Hidden Leaf Village? Tsunami asked. Well, it was an eventful one to say the least. Tazuna said. What do you mean? Tsunami asked. Just a few ninja attacks, that's all. Trying to do the usual. Tazuna said. The usual? You've been attacked more than once. Kurenai asked. Ever since my father and his workers started to build the bridge, Gato and his thugs have been attacking them and the bridge on a regular basis. The bridge is a threat to his rule over the village, so he's doing whatever it takes to stop it, Tsunami said. Enough shop talk though. You kids are to rest. Tsunami, why don't you show them to the guest room while I get myself settled back in? Tazuna asked. Sure. Come along. Tsunami said. Tsunami led the others up the stairs and into a small room in the back of the house. She apologized for the size, but Kurenai assured her that it was more than large enough for them. The others dropped their backpacks and began to lay out their sleeping bags for the night, when Hinata suddenly got everyone's attention. Sensei, I've been thinking, Hinata said. What's up, Hinata? Naruto asked. It was about the shinobi H hunter that showed up during the fight with Z Zabuza. You understand his desire to want to keep their methods a secret, but, Hinata said. Yes, I see it now, I can't believe I missed this. Kurenai said. What is it, Kurenai-sensei? Naruto asked. Shinobi hunters who are in charge of body disposal, destroy the corpse of the killed target right on the spot, without a moment's delay. So how did he dispose of Zabuza's body? Kurenai asked. How should I know? Naruto asked. Exactly, The thing is, he only needed to bring back the head to show that he finished the job. Also, there's the fact of the items he used to kill Zabuza, Senbon acupuncture needles, Kurenai said. What about them? Naruto asked. Those needles are very deadly if they hit a vital spot. However, if they don't, the mortality rate is surprisingly low. Remember that they were also originally designed to be medical tools. Shinobi hunters, and all members of any village's corpse disposal unit, must have a thorough and intimate knowledge of the human body, in both mental and physical aspects. It would be incredibly simple for them to put someone in a near-death state. Kurenai said. In other words, there is a chance that Zabuza is alive and well. Shino asked. Why yes, when the boy W was taking Zabuza's body away, IW was able to get a good look at his chakra S systems with my Byakugan, it was S still flowing, Hinata said. So, there is no doubt that Zabuza is alive. And the shinobi hunter is probably in league with him. Kurenai said. So what do we do? Hinata asked. We agreed to only escort Tazuna back to the village. Kurenai said. We can't just leave him high and dry though. Naruto yelled. Indeed, even if we got Tazuna to town safely, the mission would still feel like a failure if he were to die shortly after getting there, Shino said. In other words, you want to protect him through the bridge building? Kurenai asked. Of course. Naruto yelled. Alright, but we'll have to get some training in. Could tell in the last fight that Zabuza was fighting with all he had, Kurenai said. What kind of training? Hinata asked. I think some advanced chakra training would be for the best. We'll go over the details about it tomorrow. For tonight, let's rest. Kurenai said. The team agreed. Soon, dinner came, and they all went down to eat. Naruto was ecstatic to find a steaming hot bowl of miso ramen waiting on them. Quickly, he grabbed his chopsticks and began to gobble the bowl, along with Tazuna, who ate almost as fast he did. After dinner, Tsunami served some tea, which was when Kurenai decided to tell Tazuna what the others decided earlier. Tazuna, Gato and his men are interfering with your bridge being built and such, correct? Kurenai asked. Why yeah, what's it matter to you guys though? I mean, you're going back to Konoha after tonight, right? Tazuna asked. Not exactly. Seems our mission to guard you has been extended until you build the bridge. Kurenai said. I appreciate the offer, but this village can't afford that. Tazuna said. Consider it a mission of morals, we'll do this for free. Kurenai said. What about your village? Tazuna asked. Don't worry about that. Do you accept our offer? Kurenai asked. Sure. You guys proved to be a reliable lot in getting me here. Tazuna said. Alright. This is going to be fun. Naruto yelled. The next day soon came, and Naruto and the team found themselves in the forest on the outskirts of the village. There was a small lake nearby in the center, is where Kurenai decided to hold the team's meeting at. Naruto yawned, as it was early in the morning. Alright, it's time to get this training started. I assume you all have the basic grip on chakra control. From what I understand, the Hyuga teach it at an early age to help with control of the Byakugan, and the Aburame teach it as well to aid with the controlling of their insects. I also know that Anko taught it to Naruto to help him learn some of his jutsu. However, your current level of chakra control is nowhere near perfect. So we're going to work on another level of it. Kurenai said. Another L level? Hinata asked. Yes, we're going to practice walking on water. Kurenai said. Walking on water? You and the eyebrow-less freak were doing that when you were fighting each other yesterday, right? Naruto asked. Correct. In a way, this kind of an advanced form of tree climbing. The basic difference being the amount of chakra you have to force down to the soles of your feet. If you use too much, or not enough, you'll be sent under. Kurenai said. "See, can you show us how to do it?" Hinata asked. "Of course." Kurenai said. Kurenai gracefully walked out onto the water and stood in the direct center of it. Hinata activated her Byakugan to get a better look at Kurenai's chakra. The Genjutsu mistress smiled. "Sorry, Hinata, but seeing as how our chakra outputs are different, you'll need to use a different amount than I do." Kurenai said. Hinata nodded and deactivated her Byakugan. She then slowly began to walk out onto the water, only to fall under shortly after stepping out. Naruto tried next. He stepped out onto the water only for a wave to form and send him flying back to the shore. Shino was the next to try. He made it out to the water, and while he had some difficulty keeping his balance, he basically managed to keep above the water. "Alright, Naruto, you used too much chakra. Hinata, you didn't use enough. A basic hint is that it takes just a bit more than it does for you to do your tree walking, or maybe a bit less, it more or less depends on the person. Shino, you've got the basic hang of it. Just try to adjust your chakra output a bit more, and you've got down the basics." Kurenai said. "Somewhere else. You really let those ninja do a number on you. Had I not interfered when I did, they may have killed you, Lord Zabuza," a boy said as he finished changing the wrapping and arm in bandages. "Shut up, Haku, everyone slips up now and then. The woman and brats just got lucky, that's all," Zabuza said as he retracted his arm from the boy. "Still, you should be more careful now. I highly doubt that they went back to their homeland after escorting the old man home. Also, there still is the matter of Gato and his men." Haku said. "Only a technicality. Once I have the means to complete my main goal, the pig and his blind followers are done for," Zabuza said. "Big words for a demon who can't even defend himself," a voice said. "Gato, what do you want?" Zabuza asked, checking in to see if the rumors were true. "I had heard that the famous demon of the mist was beaten by a bunch of brats, and I hoped it was just a lie." Gato said. "Is there a reason you're here?" Zabuza asked. "Only to make an offer," Gato said. "An offer?" Haku asked. "Yes, an offer. I want you to kill Tazuna in 3 days, as well as the ninja brats that are protecting him." Gato said. "Why should I risk my neck out for the likes of you?" Zabuza asked. "I think you're forgetting your position," Gato said. Gato snapped his fingers and 2 swordsmen walked into the room where they were. "In your current position, you don't have the strength to do anything. You were barely able to escape with your life last time, you should count yourself lucky," Gato said. As if practiced, both swordsmen grabbed their blades and charged straight for Zabuza. They prepared to impale him with their swords, only for Haku to intercept them. He had managed to steal both swords from them, and now held them up against their throats. "Touch one hair on his head and I will kill you both," Haku said. "Come on, think it over, Zabuza, you and the boy are tough, but not tough enough to kill all of our men," Gato said as he walked out with the swordsman. "What do we do?" Haku asked. "For now, we play by his rules, besides, I can't have my reputation going downhill like this," Zabuza said. "Lord Zabuza, I need to go gather some more herbs for your ointments. Will you be alright while I'm gone?" Haku asked. Haku pulled his hair out of its bun, allowing his hair to fall well past his shoulder blades. "Go on, kid. I can handle myself for a bit," Zabuza said. Haku nodded and he quickly changed his clothes, from his brown pants and blue robe into a long pink kimono of sorts. He grabbed a nearby basket and bid Zabuza farewell as he stepped out to go about his business. The sun was just beginning to rise over the tips of the trees that surrounded the forest where the herbs grew. As he made his way towards the area where he harvested them, he came across 3 bodies that were sitting by the water's edge. "I think we're finally getting this down," Naruto said. You're getting this down. Hinata and I both had the basics down a while ago. Shino said as he walked on top of the water over to where Hinata and Naruto rested. You never let up, do you? Naruto asked. Naruto stuck his tongue out at Shino, who simply arched his eyebrows in return before adjusting his sunglasses. "It think you're doing good, and Naruto." Hinata said. "I knew I could count on you, Hinata." Naruto yelling. Naruto threw his arms around Hinata, who had a little blush. Naruto is hugging me, Hinata thought. It seems we aren't alone, Shino interrupted. Shino turned and looked up at the approaching Haku, as did Naruto and Hinata. I'm sorry if I interrupted anything. I'm only here to collect a few medical herbs, after which I'll be on my way. Haku said. Medical herbs? Why? Naruto asked. Call it a hobby of mine. Haku said. We could help if you want, right guys? Naruto asked. Shino gave an impartial shrug while Hinata smiled and nodded. The four of them sat down to work on collecting the herbs. They were gathering quite an armful together. Haku thanked them for their help, and decided to make small talk to pass the time. So, what are you three doing out here at this time of the morning? Haku asked. Just some light training, Shino said before Naruto could respond. Any particular reason? Haku asked. So we get stronger, of course. We need to get stronger so we can fight at our best. Naruto yelled. I see, I take it by your headbands that you're all ninja. Haku asked. Yep. Naruto yelled. That's good, Haku said as he smiled at Naruto's antics. They continued to collect herbs for a few more minutes, before Shino looked up at Haku and arched an eyebrow. Haku smiled as they finished putting the last of the herbs into the basket. Being a ninja sounds like a dangerous career. I bet there have been plenty of dangers and threats you all have faced. Haku said. Well, yeah, I guess, Naruto said. Tell me, do you have anyone precious in your life? Haku asked. Precious? Hinata asked. People that you would do anything to protect. Haku said. Yeah, I got a handful I consider to be that way. Naruto said. That's good. I think that when people protect something truly precious to them, they can become as strong as they want to be. Haku said. Naruto paused for one brief moment. He smiled as he thought back to the night when he became a genin. The thought of when his mother was giving her life to protect him, which in turn gave him the power he needed to defeat Mizuki and save her life. Yeah, I know all about that. Naruto said. I see, I think you will all grow stronger. I hope to meet you all again one day. Haku said as he took his basket, stood up and walked off. Wait, Shino called. Haku stopped and turned back to look at the bug ninja. So, has Zabuza made a full recovery? Shino asked. What? Haku asked as he nearly dropped his basket that had the herbs in it. Shino, what are you talking about? Naruto asked. My insects recognize the chakra he ever so lightly emits. This is the shinobi hunter who took Zabuza away from the fight before we could finish him off. Shino said. You were the ones who did that to Lord Zabuza? Haku asked. Haku quickly reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of Senbon needles. Our actions were in self-defense. He attacked first, we responded. Shino said. So wait, you mean these herbs we just sat here gathering were for that eyebrowless freak? Naruto asked. Probably. Shino said. Is there a problem here? Kurenai asked as she walked out of the trees. No, I was just leaving. Haku said as he picked up his basket and began to walk off. The teammate watched Haku go out of sight. Kurenai smiled and looked over at Shino, who nodded. That more or less proves our suspicions about Zabuza and the shinobi hunter. Now all that's left to do is wait. Kurenai said. How do we know when he'll come be back? Hinata asked. I left a female insect on his body before he left. They have a slightly different aura about them than most insects do, so we'll know when we see him again. Shino said. At any rate, let's resume training. I know that you all have the basics of water walking down, Kurenai said. The time seemed to fly by. Building on the bridge went better than ever. Without one attack from Gato or his men in 3 days. The guard duty on the bridge shifted to where the genin assisting Kurenai would switch out with one of the others every 3 hours. The 2 genin who weren't at the bridge continued to practice their water walking, which after the first day was expanded into sparring while standing on the water. This was a bit more complicated since the chakra they were using to stay afloat on the water was now being distributed elsewhere. Change in plans today, everyone. Today we're all going to go the bridge to oversee the building. Kurenai said as the team finished their breakfast. Why the sea change? Hinata asked. Well, you've all been training hard these past few days, so I felt you could use a slight break. That's all, Kurenai said. The team said their goodbyes to Tsunami and headed off to the bridge with Tazuna. It was a warm, sunny day. The 3 genin were happy with the progress they made in their training, and honestly didn't mind taking a day off from the training. They engaged in small talk along the way, until suddenly, Tazuna came to a complete stop when they reached the bridge, which the others did too. Scattered across the bridge were the bodies of various men who helped Tazuna build the bridge. A few of them were alive, but most were not as lucky. Looks like Hinata was right, he survived. Shino said as a thick fog began to set over the bridge. It's good to see you again, beautiful. I see you've brought all 3 of those brats along with you too. Look, the little blonde kid is shaking in fear, an eerie voice echoed out across the bridge. From out of the mist jumped an army of Zabuza, each one smiling in anticipation. You couldn't be more wrong. I'm shaking in anticipation for a rematch. Naruto said with a grin. Go ahead and have some fun, Naruto. Kurenai said. The clone army of Zabuza began to take off towards the group that they surround, as Naruto took off with a kunai in hand. Soon water splashed around the bridge, in the places where the clones once stood. Shino turned his head to left. They're here, Shino said. Sure enough, the others turned to see both Zabuza and Haku standing there, waiting on them. The biggest difference from their previous encounter during the first confrontation was that Haku did not wear his mask this time. Seeing as how the others knew who he was thanks to Shino, there was no longer a need to hide behind it. Zabuza smirked as he began to walk forward. Good to see you all again. I missed you all so much, I was hoping to have the chance to play with you again. I even brought my friend along for the ride. Zabuza said. Looks like you were right, Shino. He is the shinobi hunter from the other day. Stand back, everyone. All. Naruto was cut by Hinata. No, let me, please. Hinata said as she stepped forward. The others were surprised to see normally quiet and shy Hinata step forward. That was, until Naruto remembered the attack that the 2 mist ninjas launched on the team when the escort mission had began. Hinata was the one that suddenly found herself unable to move, or try to fight back. She hated herself for that, she wanted to change herself from the Hinata that froze up when trouble started. Naruto smiled and nodded. Go get him, Hinata. Naruto yelled. Naruto cheered for me. Hinata thought. Alright. Hinata said. Hinata activated her Byakugan and stepped forward taking a kunai in her hands in the process. Haku, would you care to do the honors? Zabuza asked. Yes, Haku said. In a flash, Haku disappeared and reappeared in front of Hinata. He swung around with a Senbon needle in his hand, which was instantly deflected by the kunai in her hand. Haku swung back around and attacks again, this time locking with the kunai, causing both to be stuck in a deadlock. Just as I thought, He's fast, but with Hinata's Byakugan, she's able to keep up just fine. It was probably for the best that she chose herself to fight first, Kurenai thought. I must say, you're very good. Originally, I didn't want to kill you, but since you are the ones responsible for Zabuza's injuries that he suffered earlier, I think I can let that slide this once. Haku said. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. Hinata isn't any pushover. Naruto yelled from the sidelines. That may be, but she can only keep up with me for so long. Plus I've laid ground for 2 attacks now. Haku said. 2 attacks? Hinata asked. Yes. First there's water splashed all around the field from where your blonde friend went through all of Lord Zabuza's clones. Second, I've trapped one of your hands in parrying this move, which leaves only one hand to defend yourself with. Haku said. Haku began to fly through a series of hand signs, but the most alarming thing about them was the fact that he was doing it all with one hand. The water began to rise off the ground and harden into ice. Hinata's eyes widened as all of the needles aimed and crashed down right where she was standing. Haku's eyes widened, as Hinata was no longer where the needles hit, but rather, she was right behind Haku, and managed to slam him in the back with her palm. Haku caught his balance as he began to fall, and spun around, and struck at Hinata with his Senbon needle. Hinata managed to dodge the blow thanks to her Byakugan, and struck at Haku again, this time striking him in the chest and sending him flying back towards Zabuza. This is the best you can do. Not a very good start for someone who wants to kill the ones who hurt me in battle. Zabuza said. Hinata, Kurenai whispered. Kurenai began to run straight for the mirrors, only to be cut by Zabuza. Now, let's allow our kids to play together, while you and I do the same, Zabuza said. If you thought you were fast before, allow me to show you what true speed is. Haku said. Suddenly a barrage of Senbon needles exploded through the mirrors. Hinata's screams could be heard as all of them began to skim or pierce her. Naruto's eyes widened at the sounds that the girl was making. Kurenai was equally mad. Not so fast. If you go to her, then I'll kill the other 2 behind you. Zabuza said. 2. Who's missing? Kurenai thought. You monster. A familiar voice rang out. Everyone's eyes snapped over to the mirrors just in time to see Naruto toss a kunai straight into them at a rapid speed. Haku was knocked clear out of the mirrors and Naruto ran inside of the dome to see if Hinata was okay. Naruto. Hinata said. Now you're both trapped in my attack, Haku said as he reappeared in the mirrors. Oh, please. These mirrors were made out of water. When you hardened them, they became ice. Your little trick is full of holes, just you watch. Naruto yelled. Naruto made several hand signs. Fire style. Dragon flame jutsu. Naruto yelled. A blaze of fire shot out of his mouth and straight at the mirrors. To both Naruto and Hinata's surprise, both mirrors remained the exact same. What the? Fire is supposed to melt ice. Naruto yelled. Do you honestly believe that my jutsu would fall to such an attack? Now, let me show you a real attack. Haku said. Haku flicked his wrist outward as a barrage of needles began to fly forth. Kurenai couldn't tell what had happened, nor could Shino or Tazuna. All they heard were the pained screams of both Naruto and Hinata filled the air. One thing was for certain, things were definitely looking bad. Naruto staggered to his feet, helping Hinata to hers in the process. He quickly reached up, and pulled a needle out of the side of his face. That last attack had happened so fast, he could barely even recall if it was actually wood or not. Hinata was hurt, that much was obvious. Naruto had to pull it together now. He couldn't let his friend die here, nor could he let himself die here. His mother wouldn't let him hear the end of it if he got whipped in this fight. You alright, Hinata? Naruto asked. Why yes, Hinata said as she climbed to her feet. Good. Don't worry, just sit tight. I'll get us out of here in a minute. Naruto said with a grin. Naruto formed several hand signs and smiled. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto yelled. With a large cloud of smoke, several shadow clones appeared wearing the same grin as the real Naruto. Several of them drew a kunai from a pocket on their trench coat, while the rest simply formed fists. Hinata's eyes widened at what came next. Before she could warn them or get the real Naruto's attention, the mass of them jumped straight for the many Haku in the mirrors. Haku smiled as the blondes came forward, and launched another attack. At an almost rapid rate, a blurred form of him began to zip about the mirror dome, and clones of Naruto began to pop out of existence. Eventually the two genin found themselves right back in the same position they had started out in. Naruto, please stop. We have to think this through. See carefully, Hinata said. That's well and good, but I doubt if he's going to give us enough time to think of a strategy. What I want to know is how he did that, Naruto said. The technique I'm using is part of the art of teleportation. The only tools I need to use are these mirrors that hold my image. I can move so quickly that the two of you might as well be standing still. Haku said. I see. It's a bloodline limit, Kurenai said as she listened to what Haku said. Bloodline limit? Tazuna asked. A skill that can only be passed from one generation to the next. It's a genetic trait which runs through the bloodline of those of the purest shinobi pedigree. Shino said. You got quite a brain on your team. It's a shame that soon he and the others will all be dead. Zabuza said. Not going to happen. I got some things to do still. There's no way in hell I'm going to die yet. Naruto yelled from the mirrors. At one point, I would have preferred that the two of you not force me to kill you. But when I learned it was because of you that Zabuza was so severely injured, that I stopped caring. I will not hesitate to act as a true shinobi, and kill you all. As you just said, you have your own dreams, and I have mine. My dream is to fulfill the dreams and protect the one I care about most. I will become a true shinobi to do that, and I will kill you all. Haku said. Don't listen to him, kids. Get in there and beat him. Tazuna yelled. Tazuna, please stay out of this. Naruto and Hinata are both strong, but they are not a match for either one of these two. Even if we had a way to counter the boy's techniques, neither Hinata and Naruto would be up to the task to defeat him. Kurenai said. I see. Hidden Leaf Village doesn't train their new shinobi to turn their hearts to ice, and take another life. While Haku was born into a life that forced him to adjust to the life of a true shinobi in order to maintain his own life, those brats of yours were born into a village of peace and weakness. They grew up in a world without death, or the need to ensure their own survival, Zabuza said. Sorry, Zabuza, I'm going to have to end this fight quickly. Kurenai said. You may try all you like. But I'm not going easy on you, Zabuza said as grabbed a hold of his sword. Zabuza swung his blade down at Kurenai, who nimbly dodged underneath the attack. She quickly jammed the blade of her kunai into his stomach. Zabuza smiled, as he seemed to disappear into the mist, leaving a baffled Kurenai wondering what was going on. She didn't see him make any hand signs at all, and yet the mist that he was able to create was strengthening. Suddenly, he jumped out from behind her with his sword and swung it downward. The blade managed to skim her back as she rolled out of the way. Kurenai winced in pain as she rose to her feet. You see, it doesn't matter how hard you try, even if you should manage to beat me, you won't have the strength to beat Haku. Zabuza said. Tell me, Zabuza, is the boy really all that strong? Kurenai asked. I've beaten fighting skills into his head ever since he was a toddler. In the process, he has completely given up any and all regard to his own life and safety, becoming a true shinobi in the process. To this day, no matter how great the adversity, he has always managed to prevail. His skills pass mine in every way, and his bloodline limit only make him stronger. The little pieces of trash that follow you at the heels will have no chance in defeating my ultimate weapon. Zabuza said. I'm tired of hearing you brag, it's time to fight. Kurenai said as she drew another kunai. Damn it, we got to take back the initiative, Hinata, a battered Naruto said to the equally wounded Hinata. But how? Hinata said. Your eyes, they're the only chance we have now, Hinata. Naruto yelled. Hinata nodded, and began to go through the series of hand signs needed in order to activate her Byakugan. Haku's eyes widened and he shot forward, launching forth a barrage of needles. Naruto realized what was happening and he jumped right in front of the girl, taking the attack for her. Hinata was stunned at the sight, causing her to lose focus as Naruto fell to his knees in front of her. Quite a noble maneuver, however, focusing so much on saving the girl may cost you your own life. Haku said. Then it's worth it, she is one of my precious people, and I'll do whatever the hell I have to in order to protect her. Naruto said. Haku smirked and shot another barrage of needles forth. Naruto rose his arms in front of his face in order to defend Hinata from the attack. However, before any of the needles could hit, Hinata tackled the blonde out of the way, causing them all to hit the ground. Naruto's eyes opened wide and stared at Hinata, who was bent over top of him, right into her Byakugan eyes. Hinata, Naruto asked. I see, can't let why you do all the W work, Naruto. IW won't get any stronger. If I keep relying on you to protect me, this time, it's my turn to protect you, Hinata said with a smile. Hinata rose to her feet and stared Haku straight in the eyes. Those eyes, I see, Byakugan, so this girl is a Hyuga. This changes everything. I have to take this girl out before this goes on much longer. She may not be as physically strong as the boy, but she posse's the biggest threat now, Haku thought. Haku looked at Hinata and smiled a little. I see, you two have a bloodline limit like myself. This means that I must end this fight now. The technique I'm using consumes a great deal of chakra, so there is a limit to how long I can use it. I must show my amazement that both of you were able to last this long, but it all ends now. Haku said. Haku lunged forward with a mass of Senbon needles in his hands. Of course, this caused all the reflections of him to do the same. Hinata stared in horror as all of them were heading straight for Naruto, who was trying to pull himself to his feet. They all flicked their wrists and threw the needles straight for the boy. Hinata gasped in horror and ran straight to the boy. Kurenai ducked underneath the sword as it swung out of the thick mist. She wasn't sure exactly how much longer she could keep this up. With Zabuza having the ability to literally appear anywhere out of the mist, and strike, the Genjutsu mistress was at a huge disadvantage. She breathed heavily as she waited for the swordsman's next strike. His ominous laugh filled the air, sending chills down her spine. It's over, woman. Nothing can save you. There is no hope. Surrender now. Zabuza yelled. The swordsman's blade swung down through the mist, aimed straight at Kurenai. She prepared herself for an attack. The attack never came. Zabuza looked behind him to see none other than Shino Aburame behind him. A mass of bugs was flying out of the sleeves of jacket, and attaching themselves to the sword, using themselves as a rope of sorts to hold the blade back. As the bugs held the sword back, some of them had worked their way down the sword, and attached themselves to his hands. That's enough of that. I think it's for the best if we give Kurenai-sensei a fighting chance to strike when she can actually see the person. Shino said. As the bugs moved down the blade and attached themselves to Zabuza, he began to feel strange. It was best described as if his power was leaving him. His eyes widened as the mist began to dissipate, and his sword began to grow heavier. He turned his head back to the bug ninja with anger and hate in his eyes. What the did you do to me? Zabuza asked. My insects feed on chakra. All I did was send some in to find you in the mist, attach themselves to you, and begin to drain your chakra. This not only affects the mist you've been using to hide yourself in, but your strength as well. I imagine that the blade of yours has gotten a tad heavier than before, Shino said. Thank you, Shino. Go back to Tazuna, I can handle him from here. Kurenai said. Kurenai ran forward and managed to kick the swordsman in the head. Zabuza flew to the ground and skidded across the ground. Slowly he picked himself off the ground, the mist becoming even more useless as it faded out of sight. He cursed under his breath as he grabbed his sword with both hands and ran forward. He took a sloppy swing, which Kurenai dodged with ease. She followed through by making several hand signs, causing roots to wrap around Zabuza's feet. A tree grew out of the bridge, trapping the swordsman in the branches. There is no escape for you this time, death is certain for you this time. Kurenai said as she began to walk towards the tree. Naruto opened his eyes wearily. He wasn't sure how he was alive. It made no sense. He had seen Haku coming straight for his weakened body. In all fairness, he should be dead now. Slowly, he managed to get on his hands and knees. His vision came into focus, and he saw what he recognized as the bottom of Hinata's legs. Across from her, lay a tired Haku on the ground, breathing heavily. Hinata, you did it, Naruto said happily. Naruto froze at the sight in front of him. Hinata was covered in blood. Needles were sticking out of her body like a pincushion. The Hyuga heiress's breathing was heavily restricted and painful, as if it was taking everything she had to do so. His eyes widened as her legs gave out from underneath of her. Quickly, he managed to catch the girl as she hit the ground. He shook in fear as he held her battered and bloody body in his arms. Naruto, are you alright? Hinata asked. Hinata, why did you do that? Naruto asked. I had to protect you and Naruto. IW was tired of being the one that was W watched over. Why you've done it so many times F for since W we met, it was my turn to do it for you, to be strong, Hinata said. Hinata, Naruto whispered. Naruto, IW want to tell you, since we met. Lo, Hinata said but was cut because her body fell limp in his arms. Naruto looked down at his adopted Hinata's body in his arms. He was feeling so many things at once. His eyes were burning. His lips were dry. His fingers were tingling. He held her close and cried on her shoulders. Haku rose to his feet and watched as the blonde shinobi cried for his fallen ally. Naruto still sat there, holding Hinata. His body shaking in anger and sadness. She struck me with a single blow. She risked it all and sacrificed herself to save you. A true shinobi, worthy of the utmost respect. She did it knowing full well it was a trap. Is this the first time you've lost an ally? Haku asked as he watched Naruto set Hinata's body down gently, still looking at her lifeless form. Shut up. You killed my friend. Hinata was my only friend and you took that away from him. Naruto said. Haku watched as steam began to rise and suddenly gave way to red chakra. What is this? Chakra isn't visible but I am clearly seeing it. The bloodlust and rage are overwhelming. What is he? Haku thought. Naruto head shot and glared right at him. Haku gasped in shock as the boy's eyes were red, his whisker marks were more defined and his canines were longer. Black tattoos moving around his body. The tattoos were shaped like flame, like Sasuke. But it would be the next words that he would never forget. I'm going to kill you. Naruto yelled. Outside of the mirror dome, everyone stopped as they began to feel the hate and chakra. Kurenai exactly where it comes from. Naruto. After all times the seal is broken. And that mark has started to take effects. No. The nine-tailed fox's chakra has got though the cage, but the nine-tailed fox is still seal, and it feel like the fox's chakra has combined with the cursed seal, that make Naruto stronger than ever. I have to end this fight. Kurenai thought. Naruto didn't care about how he got this power or where it came from. Right now he thought about Hinata's killer. Haku was about to die for it. He charged at the nearest mirror with amazing speed. He watched as needles flew at him. He roared and deflected them with the chakra. He continued to charge at him when he stopped. His opponent disappeared and reappeared all around him. He was stuck from all sides with needles, but with a burst of chakra, he pushed every needle out of him. Suddenly Naruto smelt him and charged again at a mirror. With one punch, he destroyed the mirror. He missed him but quickly dodged the attack from above. He saw as his prey attempted to get to another mirror, but he moved quicker and caught his forearm. He sent another blast of chakra and focused it into his fist. He threw everything into the punch and sent his opponent flying through another one of the mirrors. As he watched the person tumble, the mirrors broke into tiny shards. Naruto watched in hatred as he plummeted to the ground. It's over, Haku whispered. What the hell are you going on about? Naruto asked. I failed Lord Zabuza. I've failed myself. Please, finish me. Kill me, Haku asked. Wait, what? You want to die? Naruto asked. I told you before. My goal in life was to protect Lord Zabuza, and do whatever I had to in order to make his goals come to life. In my current state, there is no way I could do either. I'm useless if I can't do this. Kill me, Haku said. Naruto froze as he looked back up at Hinata's lifeless body, and then back down at Haku. He put the kunai away and kicked Haku away. Haku looked up at Naruto, confused at his actions. I just killed your friend, one of the people you care about more than anyone, and you don't kill me. What happened to that pure killer intent that was coming from you before? Haku asked. You didn't beat me, and now you want to die because you may have let Zabuza down in one fight. What makes that browless wonder so great, huh? He doesn't care who he works for, who gets hurt, or anything. Naruto yelled. You said you were training earlier to become stronger, correct? Haku asked. Naruto nodded. Why was the real reason you were doing that? Haku asked. My reason? To be the snake Sanin, so I will gain respect. To be able to show the village I live in that I'm not just some monster or a loser, but, Naruto said. I see. Tell me, Naruto, if you had someone who did more than that. If there was one person in particular who acknowledged your existence beyond what the others did, and even went as far as to love you and care for you, wouldn't that one person be the most cared for and important person in your life? Haku asked. Naruto's eyes widened as images of his mother started to show up in his head. Anko was that person, even before he became a genin, before he even trained to be one, she was that person who cared that much, even after he learned he had the nine-tailed fox in him, her thoughts of him never changed. I can tell from the look on your face that there is someone like that to you. It is the same for Zabuza-sama and I. He took me in and raised me, when no one else cared. When everyone else hated me because of my bloodline limit, he overlooked it, cherished it, wanted it, I was so happy. Haku said. Haku? Naruto whispered. Please, Naruto, take my life. Haku said. There's no other way. I have to kill you. Naruto asked. I'm sorry. Because of me, you'll have to bloody your hands. Haku said. Haku watched as Naruto pulled a kunai back out and held it tightly in his hands. Naruto took a deep breath, and began to run forward towards the boy. It was then that Haku gazed up at the area where Kurenai and Zabuza were engaged in battle. The Genjutsu mistress had returned her attention to the swordsman, and was running towards him with ready to stab him in the heart with a kunai. Haku's eyes widened as he grabbed Naruto's arm at the last minute. "I'm sorry, Naruto. I can't die yet," Haku yelled. Haku shot forth and dashed straight for Kurenai and Zabuza. Naruto realized what was going on and chased straight after him. He made several hand signs. "Striking Shadow Snake!" Naruto yelled. Naruto shot his arms out as two snakes shot out of the sleeves of his trench coat. The long snakes managed to grab a hold of Haku's arm, causing him to stop dead in his tracks, and grabbed onto the arm that held the kunai on Kurenai, causing her attack on Zabuza to stop as well. Everyone gazed at the blonde who held both snakes in his hands, pulling both the shinobi hunter and the genjutsu mistress back. "Naruto, what are you doing?" Kurenai asked. "I don't know who is right, and who is wrong. My mommy told me though, that killing for the sake of killing isn't right. I don't think that Zabuza or Haku want to kill anyone here, and I know that you and Shino don't either." Naruto said. "Naruto," Kurenai whispered. The tree disappeared and Zabuza dropped to the ground. "That's real cute, kid," a voice said from behind them. Everyone turned to see Gato and his army waiting behind them. The short, ugly businessman smirked at them. "I see you and Haku failed again. Looks like I was right just to come and take care of this myself." Gato said. "Friends of yours?" Kurenai asked back to Zabuza. "Hardly," Zabuza replied while shakily grabbing a hold of his sword. "Lord Zabuza?" Haku asked. "No more, kid. You not in the shape to handle this," Zabuza said. "Neither are you," Kurenai said. "True, but I'm older. Much older. Haku's got a life ahead of himself, so I figure it's my job to be the sacrifice," Zabuza said as he prepared himself to run forward. "No, there's got to be," Haku began only to be knocked out from behind. "Lady, take care of him. I won't be coming back from this alive," Zabuza said. Zabuza said not another word. He simply charging forth straight towards Gato. The businessman turned and ran to the back of his army, but that didn't stop Zabuza. He began to hack through the men. His attacks didn't go unnoticed though. In fact, he took several deadly blows to his already wounded and exhausted body. Kurenai realized that it was pure hate for Gato that was keeping him alive now. Eventually, Gato ran out of places to run, and found himself trapped against a wall. Zabuza smiled as he swung his sword one final time. Gato's body was sliced in half, and he fell to the ground dead. Zabuza dropped his sword to the ground afterwards, he closed his eyes, and died right afterwards. "Lord Zabuza," Haku whispered. Haku fell to his knees as he looked at his dead master's body. "That freak killed Gato," one of the men in Gato's army said. "They killed our paycheck." Another said. "What are we going to do now?" Another asked. "What else? We kill these guys, and then go loot the town for anything we can find." The last one said. "They run right to the teammate. Kurenai-sensei, you must have some jutsus to get these guys." Naruto said. "Sorry Naruto, I run out of chakra." Kurenai said. Suddenly, an arrow came out of nowhere and hit the ground. They turned around to see Inari with a crossbow in his hands at the head of a large crowd of villagers. "There's one thing you forget, you have to go though all of us," one of the villagers said. "Cool. They all here. Well, I'm now going to let had some fun," Naruto said. Naruto he bit his thumb, made some hand signs and put his hand with his bleeding thumb on the ground. "Summoning jutsu," Naruto yelled. Suddenly a large cloud of smoke puffed through the area, revealing a massive red snake with Naruto stood atop a giant red snake's head. "I may have enough chakra to help you," Kurenai said. Kurenai made some hand signs. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Kurenai yelled. With a large cloud of smoke, 18 shadow clones appeared. Shino did nothing, but simply extended his arms forward once again. A mass of bugs began to fly out of his sleeves, crawl out of the collar of his coat, anywhere. The sight of so many bugs coming at them at once began to drive them into a panic. Naruto smiled as the snake dove for them, causing them to run, never to be seen again. "It's over," Naruto said with a sigh of relief. The crowd cheered and celebrated the end of Gato and his reign of terror. Tazuna went to his grandson's side while the 3 surviving members of Team 8 remained where they were. That was when he caught eye of Hinata. His eyes widened as he noticed a slight breathing motion. "She's alive," Naruto whispered as he ran to her. "Hinata, you're alive," Naruto yelled. Naruto threw his arms around Hinata and hugged her tightly, causing her to blush. "Naruto is hugging me again," Hinata thought. "So you didn't kill her after all," Kurenai said to Haku. "I couldn't. Naruto reminded me so much of myself, I couldn't bring myself to do it," Haku said. "Haku, about Zabuza," Kurenai began. "I will take care of him," Haku said as he walked towards the corpse. Haku's arms began to glow with a green chakra, and suddenly he was able to move his arms once more. He gently lifted his corpse up and sighed. "Haku, where will you go now?" Shino asked. "I need to think for a bit." Haku asked. "You could come back to Hidden Leaf Village with us, your skills would be awesome to have there." Naruto said. "Maybe, but not yet. There are things I need to think about." Haku said. "But," Naruto began, only to have his mouth covered by Kurenai. "Go on, Haku. Take all the time you need, and when you are ready, know that Hidden Leaf Village will be there to welcome you." Kurenai said. Haku nodded and disappeared into the fading mist. Naruto watched as he left before looking up at his sensei confused. Kurenai put a hand on his shoulder and smiled at him. "His life has taken a huge turn, Naruto. It is not our place to choose what he should do for him. Haku needs time to grieve, and to think things through. When, and if he's ready, we may see him again one day. But not before or after." Kurenai said. The team stayed in mist long enough to fully recover, and for the bridge to be completed. The team had completed their first high-ranked mission, and had definitely become stronger during it. Kurenai smiled to herself as she thought about an upcoming event in Konoha soon. Her team just may be ready for it. Life had begun to go back to normal Squad 8 after they returned from the Land of Waves. After such a mission, Kurenai, as well as the Hokage felt that getting some D ranks for a while would suffice for the team. As much as Naruto hated them, he could use a break, for 1 or 2 missions. Yet, when the team found themselves on about the 5th cat retrieval mission, the blonde was getting testy to say the least. He ran after the cat and literally jumped on top of him, causing the feline to panic, squirm around in his arms, and claw his face. The cat calmed down as Hinata took it away from Naruto, who muttered under his breath as they returned the feline to the Hokage Tower where its owner was waiting. The 3 genin left the tower, as Kurenai handed in a report on their missions they ran that day. "Been pretty busy lately?" Uruka asked as he took the report from her. "More or less. Then again, when you have the son of Anko around, things tend to be a little more interesting than normal." Kurenai said. "How is the little snake boy? Getting along well with his team?" Uruka asked. "For the most part. He and Hinata are almost inseparable, but then again that's expected since they've known each other for so long." His relationship with Shino Aburame gave a fear that the two wouldn't get along at all, but they seem to be hitting it off as well. Kurenai said. "You know your team has been doing a lot of D-rank missions lately since they got back from Wave," Uruka said. "Anyways, I'm going to go wait in the break room for a bit, seeing as how Hokage-sama says there'll be a meeting in about an hour. Kurenai said before she walked off. Naruto happily slurped his third bowl of ramen. There was nothing like a little post-lunch, pre-dinner ramen snack in his mind. He smiled at the old man as he tossed some money onto the counter, and walked out to get some air. These lousy D-rank missions were boring as hell. He couldn't wait for another mission like that at Wave. Then again, having some company would have been good too. Unfortunately, Hinata had a clan meeting, Lee and Tenten were still training with their squad, and Shino was in a meeting with his clan. There was his mother, but she was busy in the Hokage Tower and such all day, and the last time he decided to hang around there, he ended up doing her share of paperwork. He trudged along the road from the ramen stand that led to the Forest of Death, when he heard a faint sound from behind. He sighed as he turned around and came face to face with a square-shaped rock. Konohamaru, rocks aren't perfect squares like that. Naruto muttered. As if it had happened before, the box-shaped rock was tossed up into the air. From underneath it, climbed 3 kids, who just so happened to call themselves the Konohamaru Squad. The first member was of course, Konohamaru, who just so happened to be the 3rd Hokage's grandson. The next member's name was Moegi, a small girl with bright orange hair that she kept in pigtails. The final member was a boy with glasses by the name of Udon. He was the shortest, though that wasn't saying much, and looked like he had no idea what a tissue was so he could blow his constantly running nose. What are you guys doing here? Naruto asked. Did you forget? You promised you'd play ninja with us this week. Konohamaru said. Did I promise that? Doesn't sound like something I'd do, Naruto said. Naruto. All 3 yelled. You're not going to leave me alone until we do this, are you? Naruto asked. All 3 shook their heads proudly. All right, let's do this, Naruto said. Do what? Isn't it a little weird for a ninja to be playing ninja? A female voice asked. Naruto and the kids looked up to see Tenten smiling at them while trying to hold back from laughing at the thought of Naruto babysitting a bunch of kids. She had her hair pulled up in 2 buns like always. Her headband was tied around her forehead. She was wearing a pair of green capri pants, with a sleeveless pink, Chinese-styled shirt, and a pair of blue shinobi sandals. Hey there, Tenten, what's up? Naruto asked. Not much, just got done with some training is all. Guy-sensei is good at running us into the ground, always going on about the power of youth, then Lee goes on about it, Tenten said. Hey, Naruto, who's the babe, huh? Is she your girlfriend or something? She's got a pretty face, but she could use more in the rack and caboose department, you know. Konohamaru asked. Naruto froze in his tracks. Slowly, the blonde looked up to Tenten, her face turned red. Her hand reached into her pocket and pulling out a kunai. Her eyes seemed to turn blood red. The blonde turned back to the Konohamaru core, and looked them dead in the eye. Run, now, was all Naruto said. The kids took off with Naruto close behind, and Tenten on his heels with pure killer intent radiating from her. The kids and Naruto ran for all they had as kunai and shuriken came flying at them from behind. Naruto smiled as the path split into 2 ways. Split up. Now, Naruto yelled. The kids followed, Udon and Moegi going right and Naruto and Konohamaru going left. Unfortunately for Naruto, Tenten went left too. You better run like hell, Mitarashi. Tenten yelled as Naruto narrowly dodged another kunai. The girl had killer aim. Konohamaru turned around to look back, just in time to run straight into another person. Naruto skidded to a stop, as did Tenten. Before them was a boy and a girl, both shinobi judging from the headbands on them. The boy was wearing solid black. He had purple paint lines across his face, and a hood over his head that looked like cat ears. Attached to his back was a strange bandaged-up thing. Naruto and the others couldn't tell what it was. The girl had blonde hair the same color as him. She wore a short purple dress outfit, with fishnets underneath. Strapped across her back was a large fan. Her hair was done up into 4 pigtails, 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. The boy reached down and picked up Konohamaru, glaring at him with a smirk across his face. Meanwhile, across town, various Jonin and Chunin were in the Hokage's office where the meeting was taking place. Most of the Jonin there were the ones in charge of genin squads, the most particular of which happened to be the ones in charge of this year's rookie teams. The Hokage lit his pipe and cleared his throat before addressing the crowd. Seeing as how all who were invited into this meeting are here now, we finally begin to discuss them, the third Hokage said. I see, so it's time for the Chunin exams already. I thought I was seeing a few more foreign ninja coming through the gates today than normal. A Jonin said from the back of the room. Correct. The day after tomorrow, on the 1st of July, we shall begin the examinations for the promotion to the rank of Chunin. That being said, let's hear from those responsible for overseeing our newest genin. The third Hokage said. At the sound of this, Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai all three walked forward. Jonin Sensei Kakashi Hatake, Kurenai Yuhi, and Asuma Sarutobi, do you have among your charges any genin you recommend for the Chunin exams? Keep in mind that they must have completed a minimum of 8 missions. Other than that, use your own judgment as to whether they are ready to aspire to the next level. The third Hokage said, there's no way any of these 3 will recommend any genin for the exams. It's way too early for any of them. Uruka thought. Kakashi Hatake, leader of Squad 7, which consists of Kiba Inuzuka, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. I vow on my name and the honor of my clan, the Hatake, that all 3 of them are ready for the Chunin exam. Kakashi said. What? Uruka whispered in shock. Asuma Sarutobi, leader of Squad 10, which consists of Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi. I vow on my name and the honor of my clan, the Sarutobi, that all 3 my genin are ready for the Chunin exam. Asuma said as he puffed on his cigarette. Kurenai Yuhi, leader of Squad 8, consisting of Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, and Naruto Mitarashi. Kurenai began. Kurenai paused as she heard a few people mumbling at the naming of the last genin. I vow on my name and the honor of my clan, the Yuhi, that all the genin in my squad are ready for the Chunin exam. Kurenai said. No. A random Chunin in the room. Everyone turned to look at him. Before he could even blink, the snake was wrapping the said Chunin. Everyone followed the snake all the way to the sleeves of Anko's trench coat. Anko grabbed the snake harder and began to pull, pulling the Chunin to her until her face was right against his. I will give you one warning, not only did you just violate the Hokage's law, but that is my son you're talking about. If I ever see you speak about him, look at him, think about him, then you going to wish you not being born, you got that? Anko whispered. The Chunin nodded, and Anko released him. He immediately fell back into the arms of the Anbu, who carried him out of the room. The Hokage cleared his throat, and sighed. Is there anyone else who has any objections? The third asked. I'm sorry, but I have to say something. Uruka said as he walked forward. Everyone look at him. None of the genin that were named are ready for an exam like this yet. All 9 of them were students of mine back at the academy, and while they may show promise and potential, they are all far too young to be stepping up to the Chunin level yet. Only with time will they obtain the maturity and skill required to pass the exams. Uruka said. Now, Uruka, I was 6 years younger than the rookies when I obtained the rank of Chunin. Kakashi said as he walked forward. I didn't ask about you. These kids aren't like you. Uruka yelled. That doesn't matter to you anymore, Uruka. I understand that you still care about them, but the minute you allowed them to pass on to the rank of genin, they were no longer your students, but soldiers under our command. Kurenai replied as she walked back to the front where the others waited. But, Uruka began. No buts. Get over your problems, and deal with the fact that the kiddies are growing up. Asuma said. The boy in black looked Konohamaru over in his hands. He pulled tightly on the end of his scarf as he smirked evilly. The small boy gulped in fear, something that the older boy who held him seemed to relish. That kind of hurt, you little snot face. The boy in black said. Will you just let him go? You're just going to make you know who mad. The blonde girl beside him said. Look, we were just fooling around. Please put him down, Tenten said. In a minute. I just want to have some fun with him while we're waiting for the annoyance to get here, the boy in black said. The boy in black looked back to Konohamaru and grinned. Besides, I'm allergic to shrimp, so I should get rid of this one here, and then I'll get you 2 jumbo ones. The boy in black said. The boy in black reached up and balled his hand into a fist and began to send it down to Konohamaru. Suddenly, the boy in black found himself unable to move his arm. He looked up to see a snake wrapped around it, and he followed the snake all the way to the sleeves of Naruto's trench coat. I'll give you 3 seconds to put him down before I rip your arm off. Naruto said as he began to pull the snake. Better do it, Kankuro, he looks like he could do it. The blonde girl said. Like he could, Kankuro said back. Naruto grabbed the snake harder and began to pull. Kankuro winced in pain as he tried to keep hold of the boy. Damn it! Kankuro yelled as he dropped Konohamaru. The small boy ran from Kankuro and hid behind Naruto's leg. That it? Time to kick your butt. Kankuro yelled as he sat his bandaged bundle on the ground and smiled. Kankuro, you're being ridiculous. The blonde girl said. I don't care. I'm going to beat the crap out of all of you. Kankuro said to them all. Kankuro turned back and looked at the blonde girl. Stand back, Tamari. Kankuro said. Kankuro, that's enough. Tamari yelled. Stop it, an eerie voice said. Everyone paused and looked up towards a tree to see a red-haired, green-eyed, pale-skinned boy standing upside down on a tree limb. He had thick, black circles around his eyes, a giant gourd strapped to his back, and the kanji for love tattooed on his forehead. You're a disgrace to our entire village. Red-haired boy said. Gaara, I can explain. Kankuro yelled. Shut up. To think that you would get into a fight with a bunch of kids, Gaara said. But Gaara, Kankuro began. Gaara simply glared at Kankuro, causing him to shut up immediately. He glared back down at Naruto and Tenten and jumped down the tree, landing on the ground gracefully. He turned around and looked at the 2 Konoha genin before walking back towards Tamari and Kankuro. I apologize for the trouble my siblings caused, Gaara said as they began to leave. Wait a minute, Naruto said. What? Gaara asked as they stopped. Those headbands, I remember that emblem on them now. You guys are from Hidden Sand Village, right? Sand Village and Leaf Village are allies, what are you doing here? Naruto asked. Yeah, you're not even supposed to cross the border without proper authorization. Tenten said. We are allowed to be here. A voice said behind the Sand sibling. Everyone turned and saw the Sand sibling sensei. A woman with red hair, green eyes and giant gourd strapped to her back. I mean sensei. Tamari said. There's no need to call me sensei, my daughter. A red-haired woman said. So you their mother and their sensei? Naruto said. Yes. Red-haired said. Kankuro looked at Naruto with angry and run right to him. Before he got to Naruto, suddenly a large cloud of smoke puffed through the area and in front of Naruto, revealing Anko with a kunai in her hand. Don't even think about it. Anko said. Kankuro, stop right now. Red-haired woman yelled. The red-haired woman walked to Anko. I apologize for my son behave. Red-haired woman said. Not at all, Sand Ninja. Anko said. So, why are you allowed to be here? Naruto asked. Well, we're 3 genin from Sand Village here to take the Chunin exams. Tamari said as she pulled out a passport. Yeah, and we need to go check in now, so buzz off, Kankuro said. The 4 turned to walk away again. However, this time Gaara paused. He put his hand up to his forehead, as if he had a headache or something. Red-haired woman saw this and hugged her son. Gaara closed his eyes for a brief moment before he and his mother turned back to face Naruto and Anko. What's your names? Red-haired woman asked. Our names. I'm Anko Mitarashi and this is my son Naruto Mitarashi. And you are? Anko asked. My name is Karura and these are my kids, Gaara, Tamari and Kankuro. Karura said before turning back and walking off. What a group of freaks, Tenten whispered. Gaara. Huh, there's something interesting about that guy, Naruto said. Yeah, well we better head home. Anko said. Okay, Konohamaru, we'll play ninja some other time, okay? Naruto asked. Before Konohamaru could even respond, Naruto and Anko were up in the trees and heading for the forest of death to their home. They went to do some training and after at night, they had dinner and went to bed. The next morning had come, and Naruto and his team waited at their usual meeting spot in a tea shop that Kurenai frequented quite often. She's late, Shino said as he sipped some tea. Tell me about it, Naruto said as he drummed his fingers on top of the table. I'm sure she'll be here soon. Hinata said. Sure enough, as soon as Hinata had uttered those words, Kurenai walked into the shop. She spotted her team and sat down at their table, ordering a cup of tea for herself. She greeted the squad and they greeted her back. Sorry I'm late. I had to stop by the Hokage Tower to pick these forms up. Kurenai said as she handed them 3 sheets of paper. Kurenai's sensei. What are these? Hinata asked. No way. These are applications for the Chunin exams. Naruto yelled excitedly. Indeed, Shino said as he looked the form over. Yes, as you no doubt have all guessed, I recommended you for the Chunin exams. All you have to do is fill out these applications. Kurenai said. Is it required for us to do so? Shino asked. No, not a single one of you has to take Chunin exams if you don't want to. This is a decision that you should not take lightly. I want all 3 of you to think it over carefully. If you do decided to take the exam, and then please report to room 301 in the Ninja Academy tomorrow afternoon at 4. There will be no training today, so use your time to think about this. Kurenai said. As soon as she drank her tea, Kurenai disappeared in a whirl of leaves, leaving the team alone. They had thought about heading to their homes, but instead opted to just hang out instead. They made their way to a small pond in the park and just sat by the water being quiet. The Chunin exams, huh? Naruto said as he looked back the paper in his hands. Are you going to enter? Shino asked. Of course. You'd have to be stupid not to take an opportunity like this. Naruto yelled. Would you? Or would you be making a smart move? Shino asked. What do you mean, Shino? Hinata asked. I've heard that the Chunin exams have been the breaking point for many hopeful genin. The exams tend to be a dangerous time indeed. Some ninja become so scared during the test, and they quit the path of a shinobi altogether. Some of them have even died. Shino said. Died? Hinata asked. That is why Kurenai-sensei asked us to think it over carefully. Taking this test is a life-altering decision on many levels. Shino said. Shino rose to his feet and began to walk off, sticking his hands in his pockets. I'm going to think this over some more alone. Before I leave, I want you both to know that if either one of you don't show up tomorrow, I will not think any less of you. You are both valuable comrades, friends. Shino said. Shino walked off, leaving both Naruto and Hinata on their own. Both genin looked at each other, before rising to their feet and following Shino's example. Hinata returned to the Hyuga complex to do her thinking, and Naruto returned to the tower. As he went inside, he saw Anko sitting in a simple robe reading on the couch. She smiled at him as he walked inside. How'd your meeting go, Squirt? Anko asked. Huh, oh, fine, Naruto said. Doesn't sound like it went fine. What's up? Anko asked as she stood up and walked over to the boy. Kurenai-sensei showed up to the meeting today with these. Naruto said, showing her the application to the Chunin exam. Chunin exam? Huh, seems like a long time ago I was still letting you sleep beside me because you have a bad dream. Anko said with a smirk. Shut up, Naruto said with a blush. What's wrong, Squirt? I thought you'd have jumped at a chance like this. Anko said. I am excited, or was anyways, Naruto muttered. What's up, Naruto? His mother asked back. It's just, this could be my one shot, you know. To show everyone in the village I'm not just some demon, or a loser, but to show them that I'm an awesome snake Sanin worthy of their respect. Naruto said. Then what are you waiting for? Sign that form and go kick some butt. Anko yelled. What if I fail? They'll all think they were right, and I'm just. Naruto began to go on. Naruto, you are my son. You have good friends who would do anything for you. No matter how you do, you'll always have the respect of them. Anko said. Mommy. Naruto muttered. Besides, you're a Mitarashi. One of the greatest clans Konoha knows. Now go show the village just what kind of dynamic, hell-rising ninja you are. Anko yelled. Thanks, Mommy. Naruto smiled as he grabbed a pen and started to fill out the form. Hinata stared quietly at the meal that was before her. She light drugs her chopsticks through the curry, her mind focusing solely on the application for the Chunin exams. She normally didn't say much during dinner and other meals, but Hiyashi noticed that she seemed even more quiet and reclusive than normal. As he finished his meal, he stood up and looked over to the Hyuga heiress. Hinata. Hiyashi called. The startled girl looked up at him in surprise. Come to my study after dinner. I wish to speak to you alone. Hiyashi said. Yes, father. Hinata said quietly as she finally began to eat her curry. After her meal, she made her way to the specified area, knocking on the door gently. Come in, Hiyashi said from behind the door. Hinata entered and sat down in a chair that was in front of the desk where Hiyashi sat. He closed the book before he looked up at Hinata and cleared his throat. You seemed distracted during your training afternoon. I admit that after you completed your mission to Wave, you actually began performing a lot better in training and sparring. Just the other day you managed to beat Hanabi in all 3 matches you normally have. Today though, you began to vaguely remind me of the way you were before the mission, the way you were before becoming a genin. What is on your mind that's causing you to space out so much? Hiyashi asked. Hinata reached into her pocket and pulled out the application form. She carefully handed it to Hiyashi, who looked it over. The Chunin exams, very interesting. You act just like me when I was your age. Hiyashi said with a smile. Father, Hinata said as she felt a shade of blush rising to her face. I'm proud of you, Hinata. Hiyashi said. Hinata hugged her father. After that Hiyashi left the room, leaving Hinata alone with the form. She looked back down at it, holding it close. She took a pen from the desk, and began to fill the application out. Shino sat before his father at the table in the dining room. They were both having their after-dinner tea, a tradition that the two have done for years now. It was usually a quiet occasion. Although, that didn't say much for the Aburame clan. They usually quiet to begin with. Shino sat his tea on the table, thinking back to the application for the Chunin exams. Father was given an application for the Chunin exams today. Shino said. I see. His father, Shibi Aburame said. I've been thinking this over carefully for the afternoon, and I think I'm going to sign up. Shino said. Shibi didn't say anything. I wanted to ask if you believe my skills are up to the challenge. Shino said. Shino, you are one of the finest shinobi to come from our clan for some time. I have no doubt in my mind that you can handle the exam with flying colors. You've proven to be an asset to the clan, and a valuable comrade to your teammates. However, this doesn't mean that you will let us down if you do not become a Chunin. As long as you do the best you can, you will be making us proud. Shibi said. Sooner than they had expected, the next day came. Naruto, Hinata, and Shino found themselves at the Ninja Academy around 4 in the afternoon, like they were supposed to be. All three looked a little apprehensive, and yet they were all glad to see that they all decided to take the exams. They all three looked at each other, before heading inside and to the floor where the exams would take place. They reached a floor that had an interesting sight. There were several groups of genin standing outside of a door. The said door was being blocked by 2 shinobi, who were refusing to let anyone else in. 2 of the people that caught Naruto's eyes the most were Lee and Tenten. Lee was on the floor, rubbing a bruise on the side of his face, while Tenten was by his side, checking to see if he was all right. You weaklings really want to take the Chunin exams? You've got to be kidding me. One of the shinobi said in front of the door that said room 301 on it. Please, let us through. We have to take the exam. Tenten yelled. One of the men blocking the door reached out and punched her across the face hard. The girl began to fall to the floor, only to be caught by Naruto, who had a kunai pressed right against the face of the man that hit her. He stared him straight in the eyes with pure killer intent. Apologize, or I will kill you. Naruto said. Like to see you try, the man said. Naruto jumped back and gently put Tenten on the ground. He then charged forward with a kick, as did the shinobi who hit her. Suddenly, Lee showed up in between both of them, managing to catch both of their kicks easily. The most noticeable thing about Lee was that all the bruises he had earlier were gone. All healed up, Lee? Naruto asked. You know me well, Naruto-kun. Lee said. Regardless of who did what, a voice said. Everyone turned to see Sasuke smirking with his team of Kiba and Sakura right behind him. I suggest you drop the genjutsu on the door and let us through. Sasuke said. You are the rookie of the year. Shino suddenly asked him. Shino, Sasuke said looking at him. If you were, you would have known that this was obviously a ploy to weed out the weaker candidates for the exam. Of course, because you had to open your mouth about the door and such, now there will be even more competition for us to go through during the exams. Shino said. Shino put his hands in his pockets and began to leave with Hinata and Naruto, who bid farewell to Lee and Tenten after checking if they were okay. Shino smiled as he looked back. To think that they called Naruto a idiot. Shino said. They didn't stick around long enough to hear Sakura whine about the disrespect just showed to the great Sasuke, or Kiba laughing his off at the Uchiha being told off by the quietest kid in their class. Squad 7 walked by the others and into the doors. Lee smiled as he said he was going to make a bathroom run, and went up the stairs too. Tenten looked back over at Neji. Neji, are you alright? Tenten asked. Fine, just fine. So, Hinata and Naruto are taking the exams, this should be fun indeed, Neji said. Neji walked past the other 2 and began to head up to the 3rd floor. Tenten soon followed. Eventually, Naruto, Hinata, and Shino reached the doors to the real room 301. Their eyes widened as they saw Kurenai leaning against the wall waiting on them to show up. A smile graced her lips as she saw all 3 members of the squad approach her. She stood up straight and walked the rest of the way to them. Good to see that you all made it. Now you all qualify for the Chunin exams. Kurenai said. What do you mean? Naruto asked. All 3 of us are required for the exams, aren't we? Shino asked. Correct, Shino. The test is set up to be taken in 3-person teams. The reason why I essentially lied to you, and told you that the choice was up to you take the exam, was because I didn't want you to feel pressured by your teammates to take the test. No offense meant, but if Naruto would have told you to take the test, even if you didn't want to, chances are you would have done so anyway. Kurenai said. What would have happened if 1 or 2 of us didn't show? Naruto asked with a smirk. I'd have turned you away. None of you would have been allowed past this point without the others. But, you're all here, and of your own will. I'm proud of you all. Go in there, and show them why Squad 8 is the best one in Konoha. Kurenai said. The 3 genin looked at each other and nodded. A smile was obvious on all their faces, even Shino. Naruto walked forward and opened the doors. Shino, Hinata, let's go kick some butt. Naruto yelled.